All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I'm your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part, so make sure you're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's also say thank you to the IndianJesus.com, the only place to get your official Indian Jesus official merch. Only at the IndianJesus.com. I told you new designs were coming soon. All right. So we have an interesting show that was actually bore from our last show. If you missed it, it was our Valentine's Day stream, and I figured I want to check out what's been going on with red pill dating, Manosphere type content, and so we took a look at the Valentine's Day edition of the Whatever podcast, and let's just say if you didn't see it, you didn't miss much. However, this perfectly coincided the timing with Lauren Southern. Shout out to Tenet Media. Again, I still don't know who's in charge of that and who's doing what over where, but I'm loving what they're putting out, including this documentary called Empty Love. It's a typical Lauren Southern documentary about pretty much everything that we've been talking about, and I want to watch this with the lens of where do we go from here? Because if you guys have been here for a while, you know I used to cover red pill stuff, Sneako and all these guys. I used to cover them all the time, but I just don't anymore because I just feel like everything that needed to be said did need to be said, but it was said, so we're good. Real quick, let's shout out Woodrow Goodshine. Welcome to the party. We also got Ochia White. Welcome. Said, LOL, MTR, Rom Willis, Cousin Tita, not going anywhere. They're actually helping people. So that's, I'm glad that you brought that up early, because the idea that I don't like any of these creators or that I think these creators should be canceled or anything like that is absolutely not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from somebody who was, a typical beta loser guy who didn't know this stuff, got out of a bad relationship and found the content, realized that, there was a bunch of things that I was missing about life and being a man, and then realized like, okay, that is information that I need, and now I have it. And so I'm glad that there's people helping, but I think that the core message is already out there. It's not like it's not like the average guy is struggling on the idea of what is an alpha male anymore. It used to be that you had to read Rollo Tomasi's book, but now it's everybody knows. Everybody knows. And if you don't, then you can get that information much more easily than from Fresh and Fit or the Whatever podcast. But welcome to the party. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video.
Damien.
Yes, hi.
Are you married?
No, but I pretend to be married.
What?
It actually, my strategy is that if I'm taken, they'll come to me. I know, it's a terrible strategy.
It's true.
It appears to work because people are more interested in someone that's unavailable. That's in my experience.
Yeah, people want what they can't have. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
That's a big one.
That's a good question. Love, I heard someone else say a definition of love is when you serve the other person.
That's a terrible definition. If I had to define it, what is love? I would say it is an emotion, and it's a very strong one that doesn't really, unlike other emotions, there's not as much of a scale. It's an emotion that is very intense, and is just about the desire to be in somebody else's presence. I mean, simple enough, right? Ochia White says every man is an alpha of his own world. There's only select and non-select. The alpha and beta argument is nonsense because no one is 100% alpha in any situation. Completely agreed. I don't even think that framing these things as alpha or beta is a good way to think about it beyond the very basic level of, that life isn't a Disney movie or rom-com. Outside of that, I don't think alpha and beta are very helpful because of exactly what you just said.
Well, love means a lot of things for me. Maybe the main thing it means security.
Love is a connection between two human beings who can be their full selves and support each other to be the best versions of themselves in union.
I think that's a great definition. She just gave a great definition. And, again, just to juxtapose that against what it is that the red pill manosphere content is driving you to desire. It's not that. It's not that. No such thing as in love. It's really lust. Well, I don't know. I've definitely been there. So I'm gonna respectfully disagree.
Actually, I do know this answer. Love means to me the feeling of coming back home to something where you just feel that it's so right and it feels like home.
Empty love. That's the name of the doc. Dramatic.
When you think of love and romance, we have many different cultural icons that come to mind. Passionate kisses in the rain, like from The Notebook, sexual lust and desire, mysterious and fleeting connections.
There's gotta be a Titanic clip here, right?
But today, millennials partake in a version of love and relationships far different from that of their forefathers, one mired in freedom, novelty, and carnal desire. Great cultural shifts like the decline of religion, the sexual revolution, the rise of feminism and liberalism have thrown romance into a new, confusing age. A large portion of our population focus on obvious positives of these changes, such as the liberalization of divorce laws that have led to huge reductions in the rate of domestic abuse. It's undeniable that some change needed to occur.
Yeah, and that's a big point. I think that the red pill definitely misses, as if that women were being treated in a way that we all think is okay. Like that wasn't always the case. And so when you have people like Just Pearly Things say like, "Oh, repeal the Ninth Amendment, women shouldn't vote," like that's when it's gone too far, and it has gone too far because everything reasonable has already been said.
However, there's a growing sentiment that we may have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And in the wake of the sexual revolution and liberalization, the dream of the white picket fence family is slowly fading away to an impossibility only preserved in Norman Rockwell paintings.
Shout out to Soil too. So welcome to the party. Said good evening. Hope everyone is doing good tonight. I don't know what is meant by the word manosphere. Interesting. So you're definitely familiar with at least some of the people on the thumbnail here. So you've definitely, and you've also heard red pill. Red pill can be in a political context, meaning like red pill being conservative, blue pill being liberal. But there's also the dating context. And so typically the red pill type of content for men was called the manosphere. And I think, my thesis tonight is that while it was an amazing thing that men needed, I think whatever needed to be said has been said. That's where I'm coming from. Welcome to the party.
Lack of stringent rules keeping people together has opened a different Pandora's box of its own. A brave new world in which many no longer know what the vision of their future romantically and family-wise holds. And younger generations are utterly addicted to trying to solve this crisis.
Can you guys hear the video all right?
If you pull up any tweet, podcast clip, or YouTube video essay from a guy or gal who's telling you how to live your life these days, all you'll get is thousands of different pieces of completely contradictory advice.
Yeah, when you're taking things too far, a sport we humans excel at. Absolutely.
Here at things you should never say to a woman ever.
Ladies, pay attention.
So this is
hey, shout out to Homath. If you're familiar with the drawings, we did have Homath on the channel. I should have pulled that up. But definitely check that out if you have not seen it. I interviewed him before he even got on to YouTube. So that was an early one. But I don't even remember what I was gonna say. So let's dive back in.
Things you should never say to a woman ever.
Ladies, pay attention.
So this is basically the way that men decide how much they value you.
So actually, let's take a look at that real quick. If you guys are not familiar with Homath, this is a great a great depiction of how men look and categorize women. So they looks at your looks and your personality will get you so far. Whether in the positive way, if you have other men, if you have a roster, and then you have the sweepers where I'll hit it, but ain't nobody going in public. The sleepers where we'll do whatever, but I'm definitely not going to marry you. And then the keepers. Again, if you're not familiar with Homath, don't be dissuaded by the name. I definitely think it's the next step of what the red pill manosphere could/should be. He's very, very academic in the way that he does it, but it comes from a lot of experience. Shout out to Homath. So this all said, I don't think all that has needed to be said has been said, because I think men need to keep saying it until more people start listening. Obviously, lots of women could learn something by going by what you say regarding women in dating today. Or have I misunderstood the context? No, I mean that's a so saying that it needs to keep being said. I agree with that. But exactly what I was just saying about Homath, and is the way that it needs to be said. The way that it was said with Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels. Again, rest in peace. I think Kevin Samuels was the godfather. But that brash way of talking, it was needed. But now that we kind of understand what that is, and we've also seen a bastardization of that type of harsh, direct truthness, where we make fun of the whatever podcast, but there was some other like Wish version of whatever, where it was just like the host had a bunch of girls like, rate me, and she's like, I don't know, like two, like, fuck you, get out, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what are we doing? This is not to help men. This is just to crap on women. And if you can't see that, then you're not following the goal of trying to better yourself, because crapping on women does not help you be a better man. And so I completely agree that maybe that you said, I don't think that all that needed to be said has been said. So I disagree with that. I think everything that is needed to be said has been said. But that doesn't mean I disagree with the fact that men need to keep saying it until more people, and specifically women, well, I guess both, start listening. But that needs to evolve. And it needs to evolve in the way that people like Homath are doing it, and not so much like Fresh and Fit or any of those guys. Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party, sir. This indeed is going to be a good one. All right.
There are things you should never say to a woman ever.
Ladies, pay attention.
So this is basically the way that men decide how much they value you.
In many cases, these men and women preaching their wares to the world end up focusing on the most hardcore examples of detestable behavior perpetuated by the opposite sex.
Now, to be fair, that is true. However, I don't think that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The fact is, to make a point, you have to show the extreme example, because because of the fact that most men are not assholes, and most women are not, gold digging whores or whatever. The fact, well, I mean, I don't know, but on that assumption, then if you take the average person, they might exhibit some of these bad characteristics, but it's not going to be identifiable enough to be a teaching moment. So you have to use the extremes. And so I get why someone like Lauren Southern wouldn't like the fact that is out there, but I do think you need the extremes to make the point. Context in the Manosphere isn't dead. It's just a process of painfully shedding off its less responsible and boy-like tendencies and influencers. Fair enough. I agree with Soil. Interesting take. Shout out to BX Bully over on Instagram. If you are on Instagram, Kick, Rumble, or whatever, say hello.
That doesn't really translate to reality.
Women are more manipulative than men.
The average Zoomer is being drip-fed a constant warped reality that's leading to greater intersex resentment and a hell of a lot less love.
Girls, how much money?
Ochias, am I saying that right? Ochia? It's so many nuances in this thing. The game never ends. Ron Wills has deep level game. Everything hasn't been said. Review Ron Wills video and you'll see. So okay, just give me a quick example. What is something in a Ron Wills video that will be brand new to me from after watching Fresh and Fit and Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate and Sneako and I mean go down the list. I've seen all of this stuff. So what is it that specifically, if you're saying he's got something different, I'm not asking for, a whole dissertation, but just give me a little, a little factoid, a little way of looking at things that has to do with dating from Ron Wills that you couldn't get previously. That's what I'm saying. And again, I agree that most people don't even understand the sexual, I don't know what the shadow world is, but the O'Shea, shout out to O'Shea. Sorry about that. So and I agree with the fact that people don't necessarily understand it, but just like I was saying to Soil to Soul before, I don't think that the people who don't understand it are going to places like the Manosphere at this point in time to understand it. Beautiful wife, beautiful daughter. Gotta love that. Definitely not gonna find that on Fresh and Fit.
Intersex resentment and a hell of a lot less love.
Girls, how much money should a guy make per year?
Like $1 million?
Would you ever marry a guy who makes less money than you?
How much less?
However, before we can discuss the crisis caused by the sexual revolution, first we must understand why it came about in the first place.
Fair enough. Oh, nobody saw that.
The sexual revolution has changed for the better.
So she's a Bettina Arndt. That aren't an easy name to say. The sex therapist.
Most people sexualize. I mean, when I started off as a sex therapist back in the 70s, people were so embarrassed to talk about sex. They often had aspects of sex that had caused them enormous anxiety all their lives, and they'd never been able to tell anybody, whether it was the shape of their penis or whether it was some sort of sexual desire or some sort of, whatever it was.
What were we talking about with the in the last show with the whatever podcast? And there was like a would you rather kind of situation. Oh, I don't remember. And I was just saying, like, if there was something that I had, we all have our quirks and, stuff that we have to deal with. But I just feel like if there was something specifically with sex that I had that was like weird, you know what I mean? I just feel like that raises the stakes. Does anybody remember what that was? I don't really remember what that was. So the woman hosting the video is Lauren Southern. You might have seen her around in, conservative politics. She's been a commentator for quite a while. And she does a lot of these long form, or I guess short form documentaries, because it's about an hour long, but, same kind of thing. Shout out to Joe. Testing. Microphone. Boom. Good. All right. I do not know what happened. No. There we go. All right. So the Manosphere, all those guys talking about dating and how to get better at game and why you need to maximize your looks, and the fact that being short really is a big detriment in the dating market. Like, I literally just didn't know that. And as a guy who's 5'4", like, I'm not gonna cry about it, but I definitely have to contend with the reality that women don't want short men. That's it. And so you gotta understand. And so while I'm thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm gonna be a nice guy. Why isn't she into me? It's like it doesn't work that way. And I didn't know that. And so I agree with you guys that the content of the red pill manosphere stuff needs to get to young men and to women as well. But I don't think that is the best way to. I don't think that's the best way for it to happen. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but we're good. We're good. As long as we're here, we're good. All right, let's back this up. Oh, sorry, I misgendered. Lauren Southern is not a woman. She's actually a male attack. Was it a male attack helicopter? I thought it was just attack helicopter. But either way, I very much apologize. Well, this isn't Lauren. This is the Arndt lady. I remember. I don't know how to say it. Bonita Arndt. I don't know, but oh, come on, struggle streaming. All right, take two.
Aspects of sex that have caused them enormous.
The problem is, bro, shorter ladies still want tall guys. Shorter ladies still want tall guys.
Anxiety all their lives, and they'd never been able to tell anybody, whether it was the shape of their penis or whether it was
Are we good on me and the video?
Sort of sexual desire or something, whatever it was. They had no one to tell. And it was a whole area of their lives that was full of shame and embarrassment. And that was the great privilege of my life as a young woman, to be the person that everybody told about their deepest fears and their yearnings and what they didn't know, and to teach people about their bodies and to give them answers. And I mean, I remember I was sitting in my...
So before she goes on with that, it's interesting, that we're watching a Lauren Southern documentary from Tenet Media, where that also hosts the Culture War podcast. And now we're talking about sexual education and letting people, or kids rather, be able to understand their bodies and stuff like that. So clearly, the sentiment around all of this sex stuff on the right is not no sex, no talk, no. It's just about being age appropriate.
My office one day, and I got a call from a nurse at one of our big hospitals. She said, I've got a ward full of young men who've had spinal injuries, and they're all asking me, will they ever get an erection again? And what do I tell them? None of the doctors will talk to them. And I went to America and found out who was doing the first work on spinal injuries and erections, finding the people who are beginning to get the answers to what was, will that man ever get an erection again?
Will that man ever get an erection again? And that's what I'm saying. I can't imagine having to imagine that life.
I mean, there was issue after issue like that, where the whole discussion around sexuality had been totally taboo, and the sexual revolution opened those doors and improved the lives of millions of people across the world.
You cannot deny that. We blame a lot on the sexual revolution, but you cannot deny that it improved so many people's lives. And so when it comes to what we're blaming on the sexual revolution and what it is that we are saying is due to the sexual revolution, it doesn't mean that we make America great again. Well, when was America great? We want to go back to the time when all of that rhetoric. That's more semantic obfuscation, that we want to take the good parts that were corrupted, not just by and large, just go back to a different time when women didn't have rights and racism and this and that and all that shit. So the Soul said, I understand a woman wanting a man taller than her. Being 5'9" myself, I'm very happy that my husband is 5'11" and I don't tower over him. It feeds my femininity. I think it's natural for a woman to feel that way. Yeah, and I mean that's just the hand I was dealt. Now, I think I got a big personality. I have multiple people when I've told them how tall I am. They like in person. They're like, wow, I didn't realize you were that short, because you carry yourself, like a taller person. Now, I don't really know what that means, but it's not something that's like, oh, you're a little pipsqueak. Despite the fact that I'm a little pipsqueak, you don't see that all the time. But on a dating app, that's all you get to see. So I think it's very natural for a woman that if I said I was 5'1", I would feel like I would have even more options, because you as 5'4" would tower over me. Lots of women are 5'1". Those women need to open their minds. Bingo. Yeah, I mean, I like my I've had let's say 3 long-term, well, like 3 serious girlfriends. My high school girlfriend was just about the same height as me. My college girlfriend was 4'11". So that was nice. I got to feel like a man there. And then my most recent ex was again about the same height. And it goes the other way too, about masculinity, about being able to carry around and throw around a little bit. Now I don't get me wrong, I can do what I could do, but size matters. We just said how to destroy your libido. Work in strip clubs for a decade. Yeah. Ooh, I can imagine.
Those doors and improve the lives of millions of people across the world.
Problems around sex have always existed, but they haven't always been discussed. Whether it be sexual deprivation, erectile dysfunction, STDs, body insecurity, miscarriages, or infertility.
All right, let's take a look at what we got here. So it says 15% of marriages are sexless. That's not super surprising. 52% of men will experience erectile dysfunction. That's a little more alarming. Half of all Americans will contract an STD. Yeah, damn. Shout out to Pam over on IG. And 10% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. I think I knew that, but yeah, wow. 15% of marriages are sexless, and 52% of men will experience erectile dysfunction. That is crazy.
The world needed to open up to having these conversations publicly instead of making them a taboo. The sexual revolution provided a space to do that by breaking away barriers and customs which kept us silent about our sex lives. However, as with any cultural revolution, there are always trade-offs. And while many barriers needed to be broken, others torn down may have proved necessary guardrails for healthy human interaction.
And just to type on this, so I was like, hey, let me just say, as a woman, it's very nice to be thrown around by a man every once in a while. And the like, even if you are 5'1", then the perception is that I can't do that, honey. If you 5'1", I got you. If you 5'6", I got you.
It's very difficult to pull apart what is the damage caused by the sexual revolution from the other societal changes that were to do with our attitudes towards marriage, to do with so much has changed in our society. And I think teasing out how much of that is to do with our attitudes to sex is very difficult. It's just too complex an equation.
Right. And again, this brings us back to the idea that if we're constantly just saying, oh, the sexual revolution is bad, the sexual revolution is bad, it's not, though. It's just there's some lasting effects that have gone too far. What are we talking about with the red pill stuff? Going too far. What did Joe say? Where was it? Oh, it was all those I don't know, but they're taking things too far. A sport we humans excel at. And so it's not all bad, it's not all good, and we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I've heard the term sexual revolution ever since I was a first-year psychology student. And actually, there's not been one sexual revolution. There have been several.
Interesting. From James...
psychology student. And actually, there's not...
From James Huron, PhD, clinical psychologist.
Been one sexual revolution. There have been several, right? In one hand, you could say that there's been a sexual revolution with the advent of the birth control pill. But women had sexual revolution. Nowadays, you can say there's been a sexual revolution with people that are openly gay or have open...
Well, I would say even before that, there's the sexual revolution that you can have sex without, getting pregnant. And then the point to where you can have sex and get pregnant and it's okay. It wasn't the fact that it didn't just go down. Like one day it was super shameful and to have a baby out of wedlock and to be having sex at a marriage. And then the birth control pill came and then everybody was super happy about it. So, to his point, I'd say there's even more than he's listening. So the Soul said it wasn't bad, but people don't know when to stop. People in this context means feminists. Yup.
Openly other sexual preferences. So there's been a widening of perspective and an inclusive mindset in society at large. So of what's been acceptable as far as sexual preferences or expressions of those. Has that been good? Yes. I think with every cultural shift, there are pros and there are also cons. If people not just express sexuality, but also express a willingness to convey responsibility, a sense of perspective and realism. In other words, you're not just expressing fantasy or a facade.
Well, even before he goes that far, he was talking about, having, let's just go back.
Willingness to convey, just express sexuality, but also express a willingness to convey responsibility.
So yeah, the idea that, okay, even if you personally don't think that casual sex is anything that you ever want to do, that doesn't mean that we have to take such a hardline stance against other people doing things that we don't want to do. I'm sure that, just off the top of your head, there's a bunch of things that are illegal that people do that you wouldn't do, that you don't want to be illegal. And so if people were treating the act of sex with more responsibility, then we could trust the societal norms to fall in such a place where it is kind of shameful to have a baby outside of wedlock. It's not ideal to have a huge body count, so on and so forth. Guys, can we get those likes up? Woodjoe said, one of the biggest factors in the changes to the dating paradigm is social media. It messes with folks' brains a lot. Yeah. I mean, and this is a perfect example of something from Fresh that I learned from Fresh and Fit about dating, and that stuck with me. That, before it was just the pool of men that were physically around her. She grew up in a small town or her high school or college or whatever. And then with social media and especially dating apps, now you can pick from the whole world. Bring back social shaming. Hell yeah. And so that's something that is definitely true. But remember when Destiny was on Fresh and Fit and he asked them what percentage of college girls do you think are getting flued out? They're like, 40, 50%. Like, bro, no.
A sense of perspective and realism. In other words, you're not just expressing fantasy or a facade, but you're also trying to showcase what goes beyond just sex, what goes just beyond sexual expression.
So it's from Woman's Health to having casual sex. Here's what to do if you start catching feelings. Oh no, imagine that. You're having sex with a man. You catch feelings. I don't see the connection.
Because again, sex doesn't happen in a vacuum. Even if people think it...
Damn, only one like on that? Come on, guys. Please.
It does. It doesn't.
Here are 5 signs your friends with benefits is catching feelings.
Sex is always connected to psychological processes, neurological processes that lead to emotion and a deeper sense of attachment. So people are kidding themselves if they're only thinking sexual revolution is about accepting one's sexual expression and preferences. It should always lead to a conversation about relationships.
Relationships. And again, that even if we take it outside of the red pill and we just talk about, the sexual revolution and how far that's gone, the relationship aspect has completely just gone away. They've completely detached sex from relationships. And I'm personally not not someone who's really into casual sex. But again, it's not something that I think should be the worst thing in the world. I think if you are engaged in that, then, I'm going to have my opinions, but go do you. The problem comes when there is a complete detachment. Now there's no expectation, or rather there is the expectation that you should be having sex without catching feelings. And if yeah, exactly. Like, imagine a man catching feelings. Like, that's the end of the world. And it's just like, yo, I was just tweeting out something about, they kind of fucked the dude over, but I was giving a shout out to Netflix because I was watching Love is Blind. You guys know I love my trashy reality dating shows, especially on Netflix. And I was just noticing that, like, there's some real ass moments with these dudes that, maybe they come off as party dudes or meathead or a player or whatever. And you see them in these vulnerable states. And I was like, oh, wow. No, turns out they, like I said, they screwed that dude over. But the idea that masculinity includes having feelings doesn't seem to be part of the message of the red pill. And then you also take on the idea that we've detached sex from relationships. Now people are out here with the wrong ideas about what sex is and what will happen to you when you have sex, and they are not ready for it. So say, right? How dare a man catch feelings? It's just so non-toxic of him.
What goes into relationships, what defines healthy relationships, and most importantly, what defines healthy relationships over time. Because what starts a relationship, what keeps it exciting, is not what keeps it together over the long term.
So what actually defines a healthy relationship? Outside of rejecting an abusive one, it seems we aren't really broaching this question anymore, at least not in a meaningful way.
Online relationship advice.
The major problems, I think...
This is Alexander Tate. Methinks that's not your name, bruh. Alexander Tate. I already don't trust you. We just said off subject. Netflix has some amazing shows from South Korea. Now back to they even did Money Heist. It was originally in Spain, and it was La Casa de Papel, and it was like a bank heist thing, and it was awesome. And then they made a South Korean one. Obviously, Squid Game. Squid Game's coming back. All that good shit. All right, what are we talking about here? Date site.
The major problems, I think, exist with online relationship advice today, and this can be boiled down maybe simply, is you have a lot of people that just make things up because it feels right to them.
Stop dating only one girl at a time.
We don't like to have fun and hang out with girls.
That's not true, bro. I fucking love just having, and okay, maybe the average girl, yes. But if there's a girl that I like, obviously that's all the fuck I want to do. So I think what messes with these girls on that podcast we just watched, the whatever podcast, they can say all they want, but it's going to come off as defensive because it is. Women do not separate sex from emotions very well as a whole, and evolution and real science is behind that for valid survival reasons. Yeah, they want to believe that because they can compartmentalize. There's a difference between compartmentalizing and detaching two things from being connected. So yes, you can physically have sex and also not have feelings for that guy. But then the process of turning off those feelings for that guy is going to have other effects in your mind. So spot on, soil to soul.
dating only one girl at a time.
We don't like to have fun and hang out with girls. We
Yeah, so just of those 2 clips so far, not me.
like to sleep with girls.
They don't really look at what we know empirically about what makes relationships function well, what makes them function poorly, and you have a lot of ideology that filters into this.
Men care about looks and...
Shout out again to our boy, Homath. Again, been on the channel. If you have not seen it, go check it out. Just search the Indian Jesus Homath, and you will find our conversation before he was even on YouTube.
Personality, and women care less...
So let me move this while I'm doing it.
Ideology that filters into this.
Men care about looks and personality, and women care less about looks and more about... I don't know how to draw the universe, so I drew a galaxy.
Folk psychology or pop psychology, things people popularly believe that sometimes are right, but very often are wrong as well. You have a lot of trends that are kind of ideological that filter into what I like to call like TikTok therapy, right?
Yeah, date psych. Imagine the balls it actually takes to refer to yourself as that. It's kind of like the therapist equivalent of having a prawn name. Oh, it really is. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? So here's one thing. If it was just because I don't even remember his name, but if it had just said, date psych, then I just would have assumed that was, you know, that he was some online personality and that's what he goes by. That that's not his name. But they put his first name and then date psych. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Kind of beliefs that people have about how human psychology should be, or even how they think a therapist should act in this context, but really is very often divorced from the way that...
Remember, we got an emoji for this this sentiment, if you would like to use it.
Actual trained psychologists perceive it. Specifically, what we see within Manosphere, red pill subcultures is kind of this appropriation of evolutionary psychology as well, almost turning it into like a caricature. And so people take what are essentially average differences or trends between groups and they apply it to everyone. For example, the idea in the Manosphere of all women are like that, right? They call it AWOLT.
Every single woman, for example, is capable of cucking a man, cheating, or lying or being deceptive.
True. Okay, but yeah, like, so every man is capable of beating the shit out of a girl. Now, again, it's very good to have an understanding as a woman that, hey, most men will probably be able to beat the shit out of you. And as a man, to understand that any woman could fleece you. But that's where the conversation starts, not where it ends.
Do I believe that not all women are like that? No, I don't.
And, you know, this is something that is basically the opposite of what you would learn studying evolutionary psychology or personality psychology, where there are individual differences and, you know, not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. You can use sociosexuality as an example that, you know, some people are very high in this, very promiscuous. Many people are not at the same time.
As a result of growing advice on the internet sphere that presents itself as intellectual and even data-driven, but is often divorced from reality, many have observed a growing gender war occurring.
We see, you know, evidently in modern society that there's kind of a gender war, a battle of the sexes, right? And, you know, the term battle of the sexes goes back decades. There's always been some extent.
And there's definitely I mean, that's definitely been exacerbated by the again, the red pill community. Does that mean that they didn't have true things to say? No. But because again, the fact that we needed that harsh that harsh style to bring these things about. It's similar to how I think about religion. That yes, we needed some type of explanation for the world because we didn't know anything, and we didn't have the science that other people had built on. So we came up with these stories to explain things, and it helped people keep themselves in order and have a reason to live and all that kind of stuff. But now we have science, and we can look into those things more. And the same thing when it comes to dating. Okay, you don't have to do, hey, you never date this or you only date that. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Always are. Oh man, every desktops or laptops or anything is going by the wayside. Put a 1 in the chat if you are watching by your phone, or put a goal in the chat if you're watching by your phone, and put a game over if you are watching on something other than a phone. I need you to mention religion somewhere. Chester's ears are burning.
Of the sexes, right? And you know, the term battle of the sexes goes back decades. There's always been some extent of hostility from men towards women, and often this is related kind of to frustrated mating. Within the research, that's kind of what's seen, is that misogynistic attitudes grow when men feel that they are excluded from mating, essentially, when they're excluded from the dating pool. And we can see this, for example, in the rise of the incel community. There's been a couple of interesting studies that tracked users from earlier communities like
Put a so does anybody not know what an incel is? Does anybody not know what an incel is? I forgot the question that I asked. Shit, the other question. I gotta start doing that. I gotta stop doing that. I don't remember the question that I asked that you guys are responding to. I apologize. Shout out to Leslie McDowell. Welcome to the party. So you don't want me to get started on gender. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed, I do. Welcome to the party. An incel. So, yes, if you're not familiar, it's short for involuntarily celibate, meaning that you trying to fuck, but you just can't. They have the fem cells, which people will talk about, like you could be a female, but if you are a female, I don't believe in that. If you are a female, then you cannot be an incel. There is somebody within your proximity that will fuck you. Is it somebody that you want to? Maybe not, but it's still somebody. For an incel, that is not the case. Watching on phone versus computer was the the incel was the first question, and then I asked that question. I realized, oh wait, you guys are answering a different question. But yeah, now I was curious, how many are you watching? Notice how I didn't say game over or anything. I was just like, let me know, where are you watching? Because I forgot all the questions that I asked. All right, here we go.
When they're excluded from the dating pool. And we can see this, for example, in the rise of the incel community. There's been a couple of interesting studies that tracked users from earlier communities like pickup artists, right? Where they try to teach people how to form relationships. And a lot of people have left those communities. They've actually moved into the incel communities. So these have...
Wow. So from pickup artists to incels. What is it? Is this going to give us anything? But that is so if does anybody remember the show with Mystery? It was a pickup artist show. And that was kind of the pre-red pill version. And it was this guy who, was almost Chris Angel-esque in the way he looked. And he wore a big hat and makeup and like a frilly thing. He was like, you got to peacock, and then you got to neg the girl and tell her something and stuff like that. And this was a show on like VH1 or something. Those, what this is saying is that those specific dudes who looked and approached dating in that way became the incels. Interesting. Shout out to the pickup artist. That is that was a only if you've seen The Room though. So confidence games, network misogyny, and the failure of neoliberalism.
And a lot of people have left those communities. They've actually moved into the incel communities. So these have grown. So that's an idea.
All right. So, okay. So between 2007 and 2018, the pickup artist community gurus who teach online networks of heterosexual men to seduce women gave rise to a different online community, that of incels, who create homosocial bonds over their inability to become pickup artists. Okay. So it's not saying that the same people were pickup artists and now they've become incels. They're saying that because there was the pickup artist trope and that archetype, if you didn't fit into that, now you were like, oh, well, I have an inability to get laid. And then we have, of course, the black pillars, where they think that looks is all that matters. If you don't look good enough for a woman, then you will never get laid. End of story. That's it. So let's just be honest. Females control the amount of sex males get. That's just the way it is. Females control sex. Females control access to sex, and males control sex. Females control access to sex, and males control access to relationships. Yep.
Bingo.
Leslie said, I've heard leftists say that pickup artists are a right-wing pipeline. What isn't a right-wing pipeline to a leftist, you know?
Idea that, you know, or an indication that there is kind of this growing resentment. I think there's a very strong saliency of anecdotes online through like TikTok, Instagram Reels, that sort of a thing. So people see a lot of negative behavior online that's not representative, and then that further fuels their perception.
It said pretty women are everywhere. Successful men are not. I'm gonna get. I think. Okay. So is Twitter still being weird? Yep, Twitter's still being weird on my computer. Okay, cool. What? All right. What are we doing here? Verify your identity by entering the username associated. Oh. Well, why is it? Give me 1 second here. No, I don't want that one. All right, fuck it. I was gonna look up though. That I'm pretty sure this is from Fresh and Fit. Prenups are gold digger repellent. Oh, and there we have the queen of the red pill, H. Pearl Davis, aka just Pearly Things. What did she say? If it's better to die alone than marry a harlot, MGTOW is biblical. For those of you who are not familiar, MGTOW stands for men going their own way, and that's essentially being a voluntarily celibate. Oh Pearl. Leslie said females are the demand, males are the supply for sex. Yes, it's natural selection, individuals choosing the best characteristics for the next generation. But when it comes to the relationships, males are the demand. Because you can, you can have what's the thing about the tribes? If you have a tribe with one man and 100 women, you'll be fine. But if you have a tribe with 100 men and one woman, then it's not going to work out. And so yeah, when it's context. Yeah, I don't know what's good with Twitter. Well, come on, or StreamYard for that matter.
A head full of anecdotes kind of make
all men should paternity test their kids, and it should be required by law. I'm actually down with that.
It seemed like everyone is terrible in the opposite sex, and I guess the only thing to consider about that, as far as this bitterness, is it justified? People will say yes, no. I'm going to tell you no, but one thing is for sure: if you're bitter toward the opposite sex, if you hate the entire opposite sex, it will destroy your relationships.
Yep.
You will have a really hard time forming new relationships, romantic relationships, any relationship you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way that you can be in a relationship with somebody who you think their entire group is terrible. Like, what? Gonzaga said it's weird. When I lived in my tiny shit hometown with a small pool of females to choose from, I actually evolved from incel to voluntary celibate. It was actually very freeing. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because there's this social pressure that you're supposed to be getting laid. What are all the trope on the TV shows? Is it's been a week. Like, I don't know how I can handle myself. It's like, bitch, what? Who? Like, if you cannot go 1 week without having sex, you're a whore. You're a whore. Now, if you're in a relationship and you're, with that person and you're sleeping next to that person and not having sex, like, that's a different story. But yeah, not the same thing. So the Soul said, "Fuck finding a successful man. Find a man you can get along with on several levels and hobbies, and build a successful life together." These women wanting a man to bring everything to the table and calling themselves the table, as in that's all they need to bring. Screw that bullshit. I agree with that. Definitely. Just said I call it ball cell. Yeah. Yep. One sec. So then I moved to a bigger city closest to us, and I found the beautiful woman I have now. I was just ready for her when she was ready for me. And isn't that how it typically works out? You can try and do all this gaming the system and whatever, and for casual dating, that might work. But if you're not interested in that, then just take yourself out. Focus on other stuff. You'll be all right. I promise you. And then, like Quantek said, things will fall in line. Now, it's not like if you just hide yourself in your home and you don't do anything. No, you know, some woman's not going to fall out of the sky. But if you're doing like what So the Soul said, then that is attractive to women, just having a thing to do. Too many men just don't. They just wake up, play video games, and go to sleep. Maybe have a job, but probably live at mom's house and don't do shit. Not that it's a bad thing to live, but like work on your shit. Shout out to Bon Zig. Welcome to the party, sir. Deep talks, warm rubs. There ain't up.
You will have a really hard time forming new relationships, romantic relationships, any relationship you're in. It's going to be really destructive for you and for the other person. You can't hate the whole opposite sex and have a loving relationship at the same time.
I'm going to assume we got a bunch of new people here because usually you guys got them likes up. So welcome to the party. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we are doing the damn thing. We call these a party, so you are now at the party. All you got to do is hit the like button.
This divide has created an ever-growing sense of loneliness and sexlessness amongst younger generations, a loneliness
that bugged me out. I didn't realize that the guitar was part of the scene, and then of like it's like, what is happening here?
Loneliness and sexlessness amongst younger generations, a loneliness, however, that has been felt since the dawn of time in those lacking touch or romance. And many turn to other methods beyond traditional love to satisfy said emptiness.
Paying for sex.
Sex work is the oldest profession in the world, with Sumerian...
No, it's not. Shout out to How I Met Your Mother. If prostitution or sex work is the oldest profession in the world, then how did anybody pay for it? Oh, probably with, a fish. Well, then fisherman was the first profession in the world. Lawyered.
Records going back to 2400 BCE of prostitutes' existence. The numbers of men who pay for sex vary from 16% in the United States to 40% in Spain. And studies have shown their reasoning varies greatly as well. Large portions of men...
I would have thought it was just about getting laid.
...and have pure sexual urges, while other reasons may surprise you, like desperation for some sort of emotional intimacy and social connectedness.
It's not surprising. It's really not surprising.
I was changing careers and I answered an ad for a reception position. It didn't say what the business was. I was a little bit anti-sex work before I joined the industry. And then...
Aren't they all? Oh, I would never do that. Well, how much?
And I went to this job interview and it turned out I was in a massage parlor, like a nude rub and tug, and I was absolutely in love with it. They'd spent like $2 million in renovations. It was the most beautiful building I'd ever been in my entire life. And
sucky, we give you a long time.
That's where I began. I started as a receptionist.
And now you're a whore. Let's see, he said, I study Sumer in the first city, Uruk, and I can confirm prostitution was not the first profession. I can also confirm it didn't exist before universal currency. It didn't exist before universal. I don't believe that. There's no way I will ever believe that. How could you possibly say? This is a legitimate challenge, so you may know, you have information that I don't. But how could anybody possibly verify that before currency existed, that there was no exchange of goods for sex? I don't know how anybody could say that. These anal drop red pillars are becoming a problem. That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying.
So I'm here in the outback of New South Wales to meet with Holly and Carmen, who are sex workers that own a farm here and have been doing their work for 20 some odd years all over the world. I feel they'll have extremely unique perspectives on relationships and love, being the people someone goes to when they feel lonely, when they feel something's missing and they just need human touch and affection.
Well, like I said, it was very enlightening to focus on my own growth instead of wasting the energy on women that were not at all what I needed at the time. I grew spiritually and intellectually more than any time before. Bingo. I said, shit, me too, brother, me too. And this this again ties into the ideas of needing the church for spirituality. It's like, you just need time to not focus on trying to fuck. It works. Woodrow said, going to the storeroom, keep listening. Pick me up a Slim Jim.
The importance of touch. We all need it as human beings, don't we? We all need company. We all need our own kind.
And TikTokers, pay attention. Pay attention to what we have right here. We have a lavalier mic. You know, the type of microphone that you all hold in your hand. And look what it's doing. That clip that comes on all of them, it's clipped to her shirt.
We all need conversation. We need communication. We need to be listened to. Okay, so like, for example, we use goats. Animals in general, a pack animal or an animal that's in a herd, is that they will actually die of loneliness. That is.
Boom. Yes. So, okay, I didn't fully read this, so let me. But sex protection was a type of currency before universal currency came into economics. So technically, there wasn't actually professions before then. Was it all basic trading one thing for another? Is okay. So if we're going over in the idea that because it wasn't a currency, you need a currency in order for it to be prostitution. Otherwise, it's just trading goods and services. If you want to make that argument, I guess, but prostitution is prostitution.
It's a true story. You can't just have one goat. You can't just have one horse, hence why I've got so many. But like, they will literally die of loneliness. It's inbuilt in us. We need it.
Okay, that seems.
I always wanted to get married. I always saw myself getting married with children. Like, that was my big plan. And then, after a few years, I was kind of like, well, I just dated a lot of shit people. I didn't want to get married to them. And as I've gotten older now, I'm kind of like, well, I'm getting too old to have kids. So, yeah. I love love. I hope I fall in love again one day. Like, I think the last time I was in love was, I don't even know how long now. It's been a while. I'm not against it, but yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future. We'll see what happens. But look, I'm very honest about who I am, and anyone that's going to, date me or want to be with me, then they'll have to know my whole past. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but I've been really lucky that the people I've had in my life all know about it and they're fine with it. And I guess it doesn't define me as a person, even though I always will in my heart be a whore. Like, I'll always identify as a whore. But yeah, I'd love one day. Look, I'm not opposed. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
What kind of men hire you?
There we go. Okay, I got it working. I got Twitter working. There we go. Is it worth it to go back? No, it's not. All right, let's see what we got here. Sex definitely sells. Definitely. Yeah. So exactly. Are we? What kind of distinction are we making, and how are we calling it prostitution? So this is like, I grow food. That food would totally be currency in a shade of the fan situation. Universal currency seems arbitrary to me. Agreed. Let's say I would say all communities shared the same goals. There were many communities that had to be introduced to monogamy. It's called intra-communalism. So are you saying that there can't be prostitution without monogamy? I would still disagree with that, but that would get me a little bit closer. Shout out to JL. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see you as always. Welcome.
What kind of men hire you?
She's a sex therapist.
Really, there is no certain one type. I think that there's a common theme along the situations that they're in when they would want someone like me.
Wait, she is all right. 1723. I just want to make sure.
What kind of man?
Okay, she didn't say it.
Would want someone like me?
I think she's a therapist, but I don't know. Shout out to Garrett Grant in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see ya.
9 times out of 10 is really not someone that's attached, to be honest with you. There's many that they might come from a divorce, be hard yakka being a farmer's wife. I'm telling you that right now. So especially during drought and all of the variables that we have around here. So it might have come from a divorce. One that gets me in the feels is that, for some of them, their wife might have passed away. So
okay, I thought I was at a different point. She's just a prostitute. All right, Leslie said, well, I wouldn't say you need monogamy for prostitution. However, if everyone in a community has access to sex, there's no such thing, and there's no such thing as money. Why would you need to trade? Sex was pleasurable. So it's not that people weren't having sex for purposes other than procreation. It's just that it wasn't, a specific transaction. So I think that's what we're talking about. Is you're like the fact that a man wants to have sex with and we're talking like a Sumerian man wants to have sex with a woman, right? And she doesn't necessarily want to have sex with that particular man, but he can offer her goods, services, this, that, the other. I would call that prostitution. So, and I know you said that, but I don't think you said that the Sumerians were currency, but I don't know history like that, so I'm just using them out there. So it said, pleasure and access to a particular type of it is always tradable. Agreed. So yeah, I thought she was asking what kind of men come to see you, and not gonna lie, based on her looks, I thought she was a sex therapist, and she might be, but it sounds like she's
for some of them, their wife might have passed away. So I'm gonna start crying.
They're already playing sound music.
Is that common? Or?
Can be.
Very interesting how they're not.
Loves you. Oh, man.
Because the other sex worker was, the dark, blacked out, and they, changed her voice and everything, and all that stuff. So I wonder if I'm still trying to figure this out.
My mess? Yes, I'm a mess. Oh,
You look
sort
great.
it out. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So real quick, Leslie said, this would fall back into the shared goals. The hunters would not give less meat to anyone in the community. The conscious tells humans to not cause pain in their own community. So you're saying all that I have to offer is already, by default, given to the community. And so then that, okay. I think I see what you're saying. People definitely always been fucking. That's the only way we got here. But the question being, was there a transactional nature in the same way that we call prostitution now? Interesting little side conversation there.
All right. So, so for example, maybe their life partner might have passed away for whatever reason, and that's a bum deal. That is a really bum deal when you've when you've been committed to someone and you've got that, going somewhere in life and all that sort of thing. And then
that's always been the like a huge fear, like a life fear of mine, that I'd find somebody and then I'd build a life and then they'd just be ripped away. And I understand that if you are going to build a life with someone, eventually they are going to be ripped away, or you are. But like, just in one of those tragic ways where it's like we didn't get to do the life. We didn't get to have a life together. Guys, our poll right now, would you hit it, is at 50-50. Let me know.
Then your partner passes away. Couldn't ever imagine it. Breaks my heart to think about it. I could never imagine that. So what are those people meant to do afterwards? They've raised kids. They've been with their wife for maybe all 30 years or something like that. And then, the cancer comes and gets her. And what do you, I don't know.
I guess that's the argument for compassionate prostitution of the elderly.
Yeah, look, it is different types of love, but for a brief moment, I think sometimes when it is a sexual thing, you feel wanted, you feel...
See, she's not on camera either. I wish they would have kind of made that a little bit clearer.
You feel, attractive. It's not love, but it sort of gives you that same temporary feeling of love. It's just not forever. It's just not forever.
It's not forever.
Researchers have found loneliness can be just as lethal as smoking 25 cigarettes a day, with lonely people being twice as likely to die prematurely than those who have healthy social relationships.
This is something that is just missed in the fact that, again, I think that we needed a sexual revolution. What we also need is a spiritual revolution. And the I don't know how else to say it, guys. I think that religion can no longer, it's no longer capable of serving humans in the way that it did for so long. People are not religious. Shit ain't working. I'm with you that people need something, but religion just ain't it.
Private escort work, it is more companionship. It is, having someone to listen to you. A lot of my bookings when I was working, it would be just us lying naked in a bed, me stroking their body, and them just telling me about their week or what's going on in their brain or what's, the drama. And that is like, I just want that intimacy, that companionship.
Well, you're out of the job now because AIGFE is right there.
Just to feel important, to be listened to. Yeah.
And we kind of, we're joking about this kind of stuff and making light of it. But obviously, it's a very real thing. There's a reason why AI girlfriends and the girlfriend experience and OnlyFans and all that stuff is exploding. And like we, with the guy on the whatever podcast where he, just had an addiction, like that's part of it. But the loneliness epidemic, as they call it, is a very, very real thing. And I don't know, again, part of the lens that I'm viewing this through is, okay, where do we go from here? Because the red pill was great for the time that it was great, but it's not anymore. And we need something to replace it. And there's nothing there. So if we look at if we look at politics and we see that religion was good, but now it's kind of fading away and there's nothing there to replace it and it's turning into debauchery. Well, what do we think is going to happen specifically when it comes to spirituality and sexuality? Kind of doesn't look too bright. So the Solo said, religion is losing its stranglehold. It actually makes a cyclical sort of sense if you follow, ironically, ancient religion, myth, symbolism, and context of a sort. We are all dawning of a new. We are at the dawning of a new age, cosmologically speaking. I agree. What are you talking about? My neighbor is there. There where? She manipulated me into a mercy fuck. I felt used, but she can't get a man now and is mental. Yikes. That's always you can definitely get a man. It's just what kind of man? And, Woodrow said, when the gal said she'll always be a whore, I started laughing and ran over a curve. It was funny. So let's not forget, until very recently in history, were astronomy and astrology separate from each other as subjects. Yep. Yeah. And that used to be science. Just like the food pyramid, the science. Nobody else is going to hit this poll?
However, there is a far darker side to sex work or prostitution for the vast majority of women who participate in it. Carmen and Holly in the Outback are unfortunately the outliers. In truth, 90% of sex workers would leave the industry if given the opportunity.
No shit.
A cursory viewing of channels like Soft White Underbelly, who regularly interviews prostitutes.
Which one? This one? Oh, Woodrow's going for this one. Hey.
Will show you an industry where rape, beatings, and murder are seen as part and parcel of that world.
Yeah, that's just like occupational hazards. And so in that way, when the girl was talking about other types of adult content versus OnlyFans in the last show on whatever podcast that we covered, and she was trying to bring up how much safer it is. Like, you're making some points.
There are always exceptions to the rule, but unfortunately, the selling of sex often results in what most traditional narratives tell us is a sacred act being reduced down to nothing more than a commodity.
Yep.
I think that's, you've hit it on the head. It is less sacred. And now because of, every second person's got OnlyFans and, selling their shit online. And I think.
And the thing is, like, that is to a certain degree, that's okay. That which is sacred doesn't need to be worshipped. There's nothing that I worship in my life, but there are things that I do find sacred. There's things that I cherish. And I think the distinction between those two is kind of lost sometimes. And just because, again, that I don't have something to worship doesn't mean that there is culture tendencies, social norms that I cherish, and some of them being that people treat each other with respect and they treat themselves with respect. You guys talking about over here? What? Free BJJ classes for well, I mean, they so they're giving BJ classes and they get BJJ classes. What's cap? Which said the best entertainers I worked with, there's a demarcation line between entertainer and stripper. We're using the industry as a means to an end. My two favorite entertainers are now out and doing things. Yeah, I mean, what? Like, you would have to explain why you would want to stay in the industry. And if your answer, well, it's quick money and I like to do my drugs, like, oh, fair, but like, that's not. I think that's what Woodrow's talking about. That's two different types of things. Yeah, well, strippers are stuck in the club, drinking every night and being miserable. Bingo. Yep. They're accurate. Yeah, exactly.
Every second person's got OnlyFans and, selling their shit online. And I think it's taken away that, like I say, it's sacred. It's sacredness of it.
You guys really gonna make me beg to hit the like button? Come on. We only have 5 likes. There's 10 people here. There's how many? 8 people here? Come on.
There's what's left, like if you've done everything, what is there to strive to or to hope for, or I don't know. What? Do you come up with some good questions here? I'm like, fucking hell.
Well,
I don't even know what she just said. What? Well, let's give it a second try.
What is Satan and good? And now we're going
to nothing more.
The second person's got OnlyFans and selling their shit online. And
okay, so it's less sacred.
It's taken away that, like I say, it's sacred. It's sacredness of it.
Yeah.
What's left? Like if you've done everything, what is there to strive to or to hope for, or?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just holes. It's just holes after that.
Do you come up with some good questions here? I'm like, fucking hell.
While prostitution has existed since time immemorial, the mass consumption of pornography is a much more recent phenomenon. The negative effects of pornography are manifold.
Negative.
Just like traditional drugs, pornography creates escalating behaviors through desensitization. Teenagers who watch porn are far more likely to believe that dangerous sex acts are more normal than their peers.
A lot of people have talked about this, that pornography can kind of promote unrealistic standards for bodies and for sexual acts as well. So a lot of women have reported feeling insecure about their body from pornography. Men as well, feeling insecure about their own body, particularly, the size of their member and that sort of a thing. And then people may also feel pressured to engage in sexual acts, learn from pornography that they're not comfortable with. This is another trend that's kind of emerged, is that people are expected perhaps to engage in more aggressive or violent sexual behaviors, things like that, fetishes that may not have been something they were interested in, but perhaps feel pressured by a partner who learned that earlier in life from porn or something like that.
Once again, it can be easy to judge men who consume porn and hire prostitutes, as well as the women who partake in this profession. But the reality is, it's growing across the board for a reason. Desperation for intimacy or some form of it.
Even future trends, what are we seeing? Kind of this rise in artificial intelligence girlfriends. People are forming parasocial relationships with chatbots online. So not directly.
And people already create parasocial relationships with real humans that they watch on a screen. And now it's not even going to be a human being. Not good. Not good. As you said, Madison Cawthorn said, the GOP is doing orgies in DC and got canceled. Those rich people are not prostituting themselves, and neither should anyone else. This is how I think it has a lot to do with what I was saying about capitalism the other day and how it's maintaining of a low-skilled class. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Pornography, but closely related to that.
While the company of a stranger is only a temporary solution, simply the impact of human touch itself can improve an individual's psychological well-being, reduce feelings of loneliness, and even fight off infections. Given this, instead of judging what people do in their pain and loneliness, perhaps we should find ways to fix that pain and loneliness.
Are you lonely? Am I lonely? I mean, I would have to say yes. I'm not lonely. I definitely get a lot of pleasure from hanging out with you guys, but just me and the dog here. So yeah, I think that it's like I'm not sitting and crying myself to sleep every night, but yeah, I do think I would fall in that category. Hey, shout out to Stephanie Miller. Welcome to the party. So could be easier to have a relationship like that. Maybe, but probably not. All right. Welcome to the party.
Yes, definitely. I'm super lonely. It's kind of feels comfortable being lonely. So it's a kind of weird feeling. I think it's like people just get used to it.
Cope.
For me, I don't mind being lonely, but
this is the cope that you have to have as a man. You have to like once you're 25, like you will spend most of your time alone, and that's it. That's it. So you have to have the cope of like, yeah, I would like to be around more people, but I'm fine.
Get used to it. Or for me, I don't mind being lonely, but I know a lot of people are lonely. That's why they're on the dating apps these days.
I think it's made dating feel very disposable. People can come and go. You basically got a catalogue where you can just flick through. Oh, I didn't like her hairstyle. Oh, she said something annoying on that date. Bum, 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 on to the next. When people get scared about being by themselves, like they tend to run away from that and I guess seek different people and seek validation through interactions with other people. But if you just kind of learn to sit with yourself and kind of confront why you're afraid or why does this make me uncomfortable, like you find, I think, a lot more peace of mind and you feel like you don't have to do it as much. That's what I found for myself, at least. Like, I still get lonely, obviously, I still think about it, but it's not an overwhelming kind of crushing thing where I have to get onto an app and be like, oh, who's liked me, who...
But okay, so real quick, let's shout out Soil to Soul with the $7 Cash App. Thank you so much. And of course, every single donation comes. I'm not going over there, brother. A treat for Morty. Come on, you lazy motherfucker, eat it. There we go. Thank you. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you. So very, very much. I want to run this back while I update the banner, and I have some things
about people being annoying. Like they tend to run away from that, and I guess seek different people and seek validation through interactions with other people. But if you just kind of learn to sit with yourself and kind of confront why you're afraid or why does this make me uncomfortable, like you find, I think, a lot more peace of mind and you feel like you don't have to do it as much. That's what I found for myself, at least. Like, I still get lonely, obviously, I still think about it, but it's not an overwhelming kind of crushing thing where I have to get onto an app and be like, oh, who's liked me, who, it's...
So shout out again to Soil to Soul. Thank you for being the sponsor of the stream. So I want to point out that, as we were kind of just talking about with the notion of the femcel or the volcel or whatever, that if you're a woman, you can definitely get it if you are desperate. But that, and while that is a significant step above not being able to get it at all from anywhere at any, anything. That's still not a great place to be as a human being. You definitely don't want to be in a place where you are lowering yourself just to get that human interaction. And so it's a well, not very, but it's a slightly different problem of loneliness with women than with men. But it is it definitely goes to everybody. Lacey said, my point with the DC orgies is even people who have means like sex are going to have sex no matter what. Still don't have sex with Johns. What? Are going to have sex. Even people who have means and like sex are going to have sex no matter what. still don't have sex with Johns. Are you saying they shouldn't have sex with Johns? Or are you saying are you giving the advice that we shouldn't have sex with Johns? Punctuation, guys. Punctuation. So the Soul said, interesting about capitalism maintaining a low-skilled class. Is there an already defined type of economic system we could use to further erode lower classes and bring more into wealth? Great question. We used to have local trade names if our father passed down to us without trade. Every town would have their own tradesmen, and production line technology put them out of business. So the solution is coming up. Quamtag said, touch is an underestimated form of therapy. Maybe counterintuitive, but even just the physical contact between training partners at BJJ was so mind-blowing to me. That is a fantastic point. I didn't even think of that. Let's quick shout out our boy Garrett Grant with the 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 gifted memberships. There you go, buddy. Thank you very much, sir. Making you the new co-sponsor of the stream. Shout out to 2B. Oh, hold on. Okay. Shout out to Garrett Grant. Shout out to Leslie Woodrow, M169 Opus and Culture Pop with B Hop. Make sure you join the Discord so that you get the full the full benefits of being a member. And just drop the link there again. And yeah, I just wanted to shout out to Be Artistry over on Instagram. Very glad to see you here. I know you've been going through some rough stuff. She is part of our Discord community. So, you know, she, if you just want to send her some love, I don't want to put her business all out there, but she could definitely use it. And we all want to be a community and rally around each other. Think Ash getting kicked off IG, and it's going through it. But all right, thank you again so much, Garrett. Let me add you to the banner here. Thank you.
Thing where I have to get onto an app and be like, oh, who's liked me, who, you know, I do think people are lonely as a whole, yeah.
One of the largest ways that the world has changed in the introduction of easy love is online dating and paralysis of choice.
You know, in the past, we used to meet our mate in only one of 3 ways. Our family and friends made an introduction, we met them at work, or in the normal course of our life, somewhere local, church or at the grocery store. But with technology, we've been introduced to a whole pool of candidates that we never would have met otherwise. It took technology to broaden our circles, for example. But that technology also brought other things. It brought a lot of choices, and it brought instant gratification. That's not been good for human relationships, because now,
yeah, I mean, think about just the in general the way that this instant gratification from social media has fucked with our brains, and then, you know, we apply that to dating, and it's like it's a whole other animal. Guantek, so the Soul said, Guantek, honest question. Have you read The 5 Love Languages? It's generic and cliche, but has a lot of truth to it. Men in general are more likely to equate intimate touch with love. Actually fascinating when you think about it. Yeah, I kind of brush off the whole love language thing too, but I'm sure there's, like many things, I'm sure there's a kernel of truth to it. I just think that, you know, when a girl's like, well, my love language is gifts and presents, it's like, bitch, that's not how this works. Or we're just not compatible. And shout out again to Garrett Grant for being a co-sponsor of the stream. Again, if you are not already in the Discord, make sure you join and send me a DM so I can give you the permissions for the after party. Let's see. So the solution is French worker cooperatives from the 1760s. Private businesses started to get tradesmen where the production lines are owned evenly by the workers. Managers get paid 4 times the workers. This is essentially investment capitalism, where instead of taking outside investors, only the investors are the workers. Mondragon is a great example. Many will say it's socialism, but it's important to realize that capitalists can invent and not work. So why is it an issue that workers will invest and still work? Interesting questions for us all.
Instant gratification. That's not been good for human relationships because now we've become very picky, maybe unrealistically picky. The same way as having too many choices on a menu, well, you become indecisive. I don't know what to choose. So actually having more choices allows people to be more picky, more selective, and you think that would be a good thing where people develop standards and preferences. But when taken...
Standards? I'm a man. I was told I'm not allowed to have standards. That's haram. I thought I wasn't allowed to have standards.
To the extreme, it actually paralyzes people in making choices. And also, they're expecting to find the perfect mate right away. And so, let's face it, there is no perfect mate. That's part of what goes into a healthy, committed, long-term relationship. The ability to adapt, to accommodate, to basically compromise. Well, that's gone away. Now people expect perfection and they expect it immediately. And now with technology, you're not even face-to-face with somebody. You have a natural wall, a barrier, basically a mask. And that's allowed us to treat other people in a more cold and callous way. So our social skills have also declined. We're not even diplomatic.
Do I even need to say anything about that? Our social skills in general are...
About how we disconnect from people. Hence the term ghosting. You've heard of ghosting. Well, that's not polite. It wouldn't be polite in a bar. It's not polite over a phone or a laptop.
Yeah, but, you know, it's so easy from a phone, and then it just becomes normalized. Woodrow said the ownership of the Green Bay Packers is public. They don't have a meddlesome ownership screwing with the team. What am I missing? What are we talking about?
It seems our liberation has in some ways made us less free. It may seem easy to blame these apps for our problems finding commitment, but the truth is technology is only an extension of our own human behavior. It amplifies our good as well as our bad. It amplifies our good as well as our bad.
I was going to say it, but she echoed it. So, yeah, it amplifies our good as well as our bad. Yep, shout out to Woodrow, who just got his Disciple perms in Discord. He can now join the Disciple chat, post pictures, see all the other stuff. You can be part of the movie night contest that we're gonna do. All that good stuff over at Discord, and it is free to join, guys. It is free to join. We do have a free chat and the current events channel. But hell yeah, shout out to you.
It's kind of...
I'm not a big fan of people, but I'm good with them. I said shit. Me too. I wish I was not as good at being good with people so that the jobs that I ended up in didn't have me always being around people. Like, this is perfect because, again, y'all ain't here. So worst case scenario, I could just be like, bye. But I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
Kind of sad, actually. Dating
Shout
apps,
out
I
to
think.
Sydney Watson. If you are not familiar with Sydney Watson, definitely go check her out.
As a general rule, they're kind of sad. That sucks to say, doesn't it? It makes me a bit like, oh, rough.
Yep.
There's a saying, right? Being an old school romantic in a hookup culture is a special kind of hell.
Dilly to that. Holy shit. That one hit me right in the feels. Being an old school romantic in a hookup culture is a special kind of hell. It really, really is. Really, really is.
And I think that, like, that is 1000% the thing, is I think that a lot of men, at least in my experience, they want to go the extra mile, but they're too scared to. So instead, they just cycle through as many women as they can, which is annoying.
Yep.
Hookup culture is so scary. You guys have got to slow down with just mentally beating the heck out of each other, you know.
Is this the prostitute saying that? Okay. Yeah, Guan says, holy shit, Sydney Watson, Lauren Southern on a podcast would be fire. I would definitely cover that. I would definitely cover that.
Scary. I don't want to be a part of that world. It's people.
Oh, but the sex work world is way better. Like, again, there's levels to this shit. Yeah, being an old school romantic in a hookup culture world is not great. But I would imagine that being an old school romantic and being in the world of sex work is probably worse. Probably. There you go. Shout out Soil to Soul. Hell yeah.
Too nasty to each other. People have no consideration for each other anymore. None.
I mean, it's true. We put so much emphasis on our feelings and on, expressing them and crying and, being aware of our mental health and being aware of, being mentally healthy and all these sort of things. And yet, by the same token, we encourage this weird hookup culture where we.
Hey, shout out to Soil the Soul who ordered an Indian Jesus won an Indian Jesus mug from one of our previous Discord contests. And a little bit of vodka. Sorry, not sorry. Dilly to that. There we go. We partying.
Basically discredit and throw away how other people feel, and we call them babies, or we call them, we attack people personally when they want more or when they don't behave in a certain way or whatever the case may be. And I think that honestly, just watching it, like begrudgingly, wishing that, hoping to find the right person, but, watching it from the outside, I think, oh my God, we're doing this to ourselves.
Facts. We are doing this to ourselves. And we being just people. It's not some outside force. It's just people and this gender war that they talked about creating a spiraling situation. It's just not good. And I'm very glad that they are talking about it in this way, because again, in conservative politics, it's very easy to just a whole board just be like, oh, sex is bad, left is bad, all of that, get married. And that's not a bad way to live your life, but that's not going to be, especially with the detachment of religion from conservatism. That's not gonna be enough. It's not gonna be enough. We got accidents waiting to happen.
We celebrate in this culture this idea of casual sex. This idea of the hookup culture. It is no longer even questions. It's just accepted. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So women are engaged.
An STI testing guide for your summer of hooking up with everyone. Oh, yay. Just hook up with everyone and worry about the STDs later.
Engaging in this with no understanding of the fact that they come away.
Your guide to post-pandemic sex, clubs, orgies, and open sex spaces.
What?
What is an open sex space? Actually, I don't want to know.
From that experience, damaged.
I think the hookup culture has been very destructive for women who've felt that they were under pressure to treat it like a game of squash, to go in there as if it was just about sexual enjoyment.
The fact is,
when you go in and it's just about sexual enjoyment, everybody loses.
Go in there as if it was just about sexual enjoyment.
The fact is that women have oxytocin, high levels of oxytocin that men don't have, and it causes them to attach and to bond to the man with whom they're having sex. And so the idea of casual sex just doesn't even work from a biological perspective. And that's very surprising for women because they were taught, again, that they're just like men.
Hot girl summer, we're equal, we can do it, and if you can do it, we can do it. Just a perfect example of just because you can doesn't mean you should. Don Zig said pandemic and being indoors messed up everything. Yep. What you say? Which circle of hell was lust according to Dante? Asking for a friend. I'm gonna go with 6. So as far as I go to call these interactions we have in the streams and Discord as anarchism, mutually beneficial voluntary interactions. I'm more centrist and libertarian publicly and politically speaking, but I always identify myself as an anarchist. I do not need a leader. Dilly to that. Hell yeah.
Logical perspective. And that's very surprising for women because they were taught, again, that they're just like men.
I got a PhD.
I do think the young generation now almost always goes to bed too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go to bed with each other, the women are much more likely to see it as a sign that this is going to lead on to something wonderful. So,
yeah, and that's the maybe not the most fucked up part, but one of the most fucked up parts is that the cultural message is, yes, just do what makes you happy, and what makes you happy is acting like a man and just getting as much sex as you can. And they believe it, but even though it's not true, they still continue the behavior. And they convince themselves it's like the people with the COVID vaccines. And it's like, oh, I got vaccinated and then I got COVID. Would have been way worse if I didn't. So I got another booster and then I got COVID again. And thankfully, it was after my booster. So I got a third one. And I mean, obviously, we're not litigating that whole thing, but I'm just saying. I see some similarities.
women are much more likely to see it as a sign that this is going to lead on to something wonderful. So the women get even more excited. And
hey, shout out to Dietrich. Welcome to the party. Dilly to Mrs. Dietrich. Happy birthday. Thank you for stopping by, brother. I know you hit that like button. Welcome. Wesley said, Woodrow, from the guys from RH are still collaborating, but doing it in a respectful way to the other members that retired, Radiohead. They called The Smile, which is based off the politician's grin. Interesting.
And then as the man realizes, no, this is not the right person for me, and extracts himself. I mean, he knows he's inflicting an enormous amount of hurt on her because her expectations are different. Men and women struggle with this stuff.
The fact that
49 single and addicted to dating apps. I would I'm actually curious what kind of numbers. I should have put this here so I can read it. 49 single and addicted to dating apps. Let's see what this actually says for you guys. Oh, this fucking bullshit. Really? There's no free. I don't care. I lost interest. Good job, guys. I completely lost interest in anything that you have to offer.
Their expectations are different. Men and women struggle with this stuff.
The fact that men are capable of separating, not that we should be arguing that that's a good thing, but just the biological facts is that they're capable of separating, is the reason why the film He's Just Not That Into You wasn't called She's Just Not That
Into You. Have you guys seen that movie? He's Just Not That Into You. It's kind of a typical early 2000s rom-com, but it has a little bit more to it. And Justin Long has an interesting character in that, where he's the guy who's essentially red pilling the girl in the movie. Interesting concept. But yeah, they didn't call it She's Just Not That Into You, because men are very familiar with what rejection means and how it looks. And maybe there's a subset of men who are very bad at recognizing it, but men by and large are very familiar with rejection.
He's Just Not That Into You wasn't called She's Just Not That Into You, right? People understand that sex is different for men than it is for women. So that is one thing that is just not told to women whatsoever. So they're very surprised at their reactions when they are trying to engage in this crazy idea of hooking up.
The fact is, when people have sexual relationships, it unleashes all sorts of brain chemistry and psychological forms of attachment.
Not for me. I'm a whore and I just get ran through and I don't even care anymore. Lie. Not true.
And so people are having more than sex. They actually are going through, at least psychologically and biologically, the early stages of forming a relationship.
Okay, I agree with that sentiment. However, when you say that you're not just having sex, you are doing this thing, you are reinforcing the idea that sex is just a physical transaction. Sex is biologically the early stages of forming a relationship. It's not in addition to sex that you have the early stages. I mean, I get that that's not how it's supposed to be, but the way that it works now is that if that's your, texting is a early stages of forming a relationship. Then you meet up and fuck on the first night, and if anything goes from there, this sex is one of the stages. Maybe it's in the wrong order, but again, it's the semantics of this, not obfuscating anything. Well, that actually is semantic obfuscation. The way that he's saying it is reinforcing the separation of the physical act from the spiritual whatever that we were talking about. Let's do it again.
Are having more than sex.
No, they're not. That's what sex is.
They actually are going through, at least psychologically and biologically, the early stages of forming a relationship.
Yeah. I would not be surprised, Valentine. I would not be surprised. But yeah, exactly as exactly as I just said, he's feeding into the exact idea he's arguing against. Sig said, women get hornier as they get older. It's science. Yep, but men need to keep their testosterone levels up. Yep, just got to check for that. I'm good on testosterone. Let's go.
And so if people start now messing with that natural biology and natural psychology, people may not even realize when they have met the right one.
So not only is it ruining your ability to bond to that person in the first place, but it's also preventing you from realizing that this is a person that you want to bond to outside of just getting ran through. Every way we look at this, it's a problem. And there's no legal, there is a legal answer, but not one that any of us would be in favor of. There's a religious answer. And for those of you who are in religion, great. What about the rest of America? What is the answer? What is the solution? What is a solution? The American identity.
They don't even realize the signs or the feelings, the hints that people have internally of, wow, this is more than just a hookup. I really like this person. This might be the foundation for a long-term relationship. Again, the outcome has been too much sex can blind a person to the markers and the indicators of love.
A lot of this has led to a fiery debate online called the body count discourse.
The body count.
You have a high body count, you're not even an option anymore.
So even you know that a woman that has
shout out to the frauds in Florida.
a past is no longer valuable.
Wait, what did he say?
You're not even an option anymore.
So even you know that a woman that has a past is no longer valuable, which is why you're hesitant to answer the question.
What we know from the research is...
What's really sad is that I know exactly the context of that conversation. Now I know that they brought up, obviously they're talking about body count, but they were going around and they were giving numbers, and she's like, oh, I did this many, I did that many. And they get over, I forget which one it was. I think it was this one. They get over here and she doesn't want to say, or something like that. And that is the reason that they ask the question, because they know that the women don't want to answer, and then they can say exactly the same thing.
Past is no longer valuable, which is why you're hesitant to answer the question.
That's exactly why they asked the question. And it's true that is a thing, that body count does matter, that women understand body count matters, and that it's a biological thing with men. But they don't care. It's just whatever. That's the logic. It's that deep.
What we know from the research is men, when they see another man with, a high body count, they tend to view it very positively as a sort of status signal. In fact, it's a very, very robust status signal.
So ladies, I'm curious of what you think of this point. I'm going to run it back. And this is kind of addressing the idea that the double standard that a man who sleeps around is that's a good thing, but a woman sleeping around is a bad thing. What do you think?
What we know from the research is men, when they see another man with, a high body count, they tend to view it very positively as a sort of status signal. In fact, it's a very, very robust status signal. Men see a man who, had many partners or who claims to, and they think, this is a high status man. Look at all of the mates he can acquire. Women don't. When women see a man with a high body count, they view him negatively as men view women who have a high body count. So it's pretty same. What does that signal to women, for example? Low trust, low commitment, a high potential for infidelity, and also disgust sensitivity comes into it as well, right? Fear of pathogens, the idea that someone that has had many partners, could be a risk because they have a disease, for example. So it's probably the case there, that for a man, they want to be someone that maybe could have sex with a lot of women, have access to a lot of women, but who actually has not.
So I'm curious what the ladies think about that type of explanation that and again, this is discussed and explored in red pill spaces, but I always hear it in more of a demanding way, where a man, it's hard to be a man who could do this, so you have to let it do. But what do you think of the notion that it is very different to be a man who has a lot of sex and a woman that has a lot of sex? It is very hard to be a man that has a lot of sex. It is very easy to be a woman that has a lot of sex. Just curious. Let me know in the comments below.
Maybe could have sex with a lot of women, have access to a lot of women, but who actually has not.
It's undeniable that hookup culture is viewed with negativity for a reason. But despite much commentary online, those who have been swept up by modern romance trends should not lose hope for their future, so long as they're willing to seek out and heal with partners sharing similar pasts to their own.
So in my own data, I asked how many men and women know the current body count of your partner, basically, right?
None. Don't nobody know. They always fucking lie. I do not. I will, so many people, men and women, but obviously women, so many women lie that even if you, just by statistics, you would, even if you're telling me the truth, I'm not going to believe you. They never will be honest with you.
How many past sexual partners have they had? 30% of men didn't know at all. For a committed romantic relationship, 25% of women didn't know. I also asked...
Again, 0% of men knew. She ain't telling you, bro.
Men and women.
And you don't want her to tell you. You don't, just let the past be in the past. As long as it's not that, she's been ran through, which is something that you hopefully should be able to ascertain through other ways than just being like, hey, you ever been ran through? She'll give off the energy of somebody who doesn't behave that way. Now, that's not foolproof, but that's all you get. That's all you get. So the souls, I think it's evolutionary thinking, period. Women should have children to show for their sexual relationships. Men, not necessarily such. Maybe they brought home the meat. Pun not intended.
Do you ask your romantic partner in a relationship? 50% of men, they don't ask.
Smart men. Smart men. Because, again, you're either going to get a lie or you're going to get a number that you don't like. If she's with you, just enjoy it. You will never know. Don't ask. So maybe it meant women were screwing lesser men that weren't capable of going out on the hunt. Possibly. Yeah, definitely makes sense.
42% of women, they don't ask. So this could be because they don't want to know or they don't want to care. If they knew, maybe it would bother them, or maybe they really just genuinely don't care. But if you have half of the population saying they don't ask, then it's probably not the case that this is going to come up. And then at the same time, we have assortative mating, right?
Assortative mating. I hope he's going to explain that.
Individuals who are more promiscuous tend to pair up with others who are more promiscuous as well. Often, those might be the individuals that care less. So it's, they're going to find each other. It's probably not the case that this is going to exclude a lot of people from the mating pool.
In fact, while high body count does have correlations with lack of ability to maintain relationships.
I wonder what Lauren's body count is. Just wondering. Just curious.
Extreme bitterness towards those who have engaged in hookup culture also has a correlation with inability to even form or partake in sexual relationships in the first place.
Why might people put so much effort into trying to convince the world that people with high body counts are not going to find love? Part of this could be intersexual competition, right? And there's a lot of research that indicates men who are less successful in the mating market develop more negative attitudes toward promiscuity. There's been experiments as well along those lines that manipulating dating apps in an experimental condition to make men get rejected more, You give them a measurement for attitudes toward promiscuity after the fact, and it becomes more negative, even acutely, very, very fast. So people shift their belief on that very, very quickly. We see competition that comes into it as well. When men are in an environment with a male-heavy sex ratio, they also become more negative towards promiscuity. And when men are subjected to photos of men who look more masculine or who have beards, for example, they also become more negative toward promiscuity. So the idea of competition, of low success in the mating market, and all of that. And yeah, so something that I found in my data as well is men who were young, who were not in school, who were not employed, and who were virgins themselves had the most negative attitudes towards high body
women.
counts. They were the ones that
Yep. Yeah. That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense because it's a just like everything else. There's an online perception that, oh, high body count is bad. But you go out into the real world and you realize that, like, yes, okay, I don't want some whore. But if I'm 30 years old, the chances of me finding a virgin that I like, not only a virgin, but a virgin that I want to be with, is relatively low. And so I can either have this hardline stance, or I can realize that, well, I'm probably not a virgin. So I can either be alone and have this hardline thing, or make compromises. And it's the guys who are not engaging with the reality of the situation who have the privilege of saying, no, I would never do that. I would never do this. I would never. Like, well, yeah, but nobody's asking you. Nobody's asking you to. Saw the Soul said, oh, wow, I'd like to read that study regarding beards and dislike of promiscuity. Let's see if we can find it. Study beards, dislike promiscuity. Multiple women in the mainstream. Did I spell it wrong? Nope. The effects of facial hair manipulation on female perceptions of attractiveness, masculine. Facial hair manipulation. Okay. So what we got? What we got? Aim of the studies to examine this effects of systematic alterations of male facial hair on female perceptions. So that's not what we're looking for. What puts women off of bearded men, of course. So let's say bearded men. Let's try this. Oh, wait, I'm gonna look at my name. I don't really care if you guys know my name. I'm just, I'm not throwing it out there if we don't need to. Okay, so what is the study that showed that bearded men dislike promiscuity more? Hey, shout out to Trey Williams. Welcome to the party. Said, I am so happy this era is over. Indeed. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, we got what we needed. There's still young bucks who need the information, but these guys are not where they're looking. Welcome to the party, brother. All right, let's see. We were going back. Where am I? We're talking about this. Okay, so January 22, not aware of any specific study that directly associates bearded men with a dislike for promiscuity. It's important to note that research in the social sciences can be diverse and dynamic. There's been a study on the topic since my last update. All right. So I mean, good catch. We're gonna have to take that one on faith. But men in that situation often have an unrealistic standard of women due to never knowing what a real woman is actually like. Yep. Who can't grow facial hair to say it was like, oh man, oh no. Well, I mean, I couldn't find it, but I was just searching quickly. That doesn't mean it's not true, but I also couldn't find it, and that seems like a pretty specific thing to search. I don't know how many studies there are that have to do with beards and promiscuity. So, and Gwaltney Plus, they're probably projecting their insecurities on the women to make themselves feel better about their own problems. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the entire incel community, incel black pill community. It's just like, oh, let's shit on women to feel better about ourselves. Just that simple. Just that simple. Bonzig said, no, the hottest babes too, Woodrow. You got to have that gay alliance too. What? Right, let's dive back in here.
Yeah, so something that I found in my data as well is men who were young, who were not in school, who were not employed, and who were virgins themselves had the most negative attitudes toward high body counts. They were the ones that wanted a virgin the most. So that's kind of what you see. Is it's probably intersexual competition. People are trying to shame others, you know, maybe to make mates more available for themselves in a sense.
I don't even know if it's that. I think it's just straight up copium. I can't get laid. And it's not because I'm a loser. It's because all of these women are whores. And my standards are too high for that. Okay, bro. We just said, I forgot the last time I was clean shaven. I've had a beard of varying lengths for 10 plus years. Yeah, me too. Well, no, I've definitely gone clean shaven like once or twice in that time. But finally, this is growing back in. I don't know if you guys look at like streams from like, you know, the past couple of months. Oh my God, this has been, I have a trichotillomania. Google that. But it's like a nervous tick where I'll like pull out my beard hairs. And I've been trying really hard to make sure that I don't do that. And it's growing back in. I'm gonna shave tomorrow. Sexy as fuck.
Oh, maybe to make mates more available for themselves in a sense.
I don't.
Whoa,
And,
whoa,
you know, this
whoa,
is something.
whoa, what just happened?
The romance crisis. This highlights one of the great.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Available for themselves in a sense.
This highlights one of the greatest problems with our discourse around the romance crisis. Increasingly, advice is rarely coming from a place of genuine care, whether it be mocking of virgins or shaming of the promiscuous. At the extremes, you see a deep bitterness and desire for others to be in more unfortunate circumstances than our own, a perpetual race to the bottom. One solution to many of these problems would be, rather than shame, to promote healthy relationships, like strengthening families. But even something as simple and obviously good as the family unit has found itself a victim of extremist politics.
Yeah, so Comtex saying that it was just by the actual definition of the fact that by not by his own choice he was celibate, and a lot of the culture that comes around being an incel today has a lot more. There's negative connotations, the community, all that stuff, the hating of women, the connection to the black pill ideology that unless you look this way, that way, this way, then you're going to be alone forever, or so on and so forth. That's there's varying levels. You could literally just be in a position where involuntarily you are not having sex, or you could make it your whole life. I don't get why you would want that to be your identity. But hey, to each their own. So the soul said, my husband has kept a goatee / beard for 15 years now. One job had him clean shaven except for a mustache, and he doesn't do prison pussy. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. Leslie said, both men and women are under a lot of stress, and hierarchical systems cause much resentment. Well, they might cause resentment, but they work. They work to create a society, and that's what we need. That's what we need. I forced myself to grow a beard. My baldness was kicking in hard, and I knew I was going to have hair on my head some way. Come hell or high water. There you go. There you go. The family. Shout out to the OG Discord members who know what's good with the family.
It's a very strange paradox that the more sexualized the culture has become, in a way, the less vital and vigorous true sexual relations have become. I think the sexual revolution, like all revolutions, may have started off with great ideals, but it's actually consumed its own. If you look at Kate Millett and all her Marxist friends from the 60s who founded the National Organization of Women.
The National Organization of Women. Just imagine there was something today where they're like, okay, I'm sorry, it's just times they are a-changing.
Great standard bearer of the sexual revolution. Their objective was actually destructive. It was to tear down the patriarchy, and that meant destroying marriage.
Destroy the patriarchy. And what did he just say? That means destroying marriage. This is akin to the CRT people saying that being on time is whiteness.
What?
You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to live in a society where the genders are exactly the same, you're not going to have a good time. We're already seeing a lot of the not necessarily pushback, but the kickback from all these women. I have to work 40 hours a week, and then I get home and I'm so tired. Like, bitch, motherfuckers are out here working I work two 24-hour-a-day jobs. 24 hours a day, I'm on call for 2 different jobs. So suck it the fuck up and get the fuck out of here. I don't even know where that came from. What I was talking about. Oh yeah, the patriarchy. The patriarchy. So the Soul said definitions of hierarchical systems can be argued, but may not get either party very far in just a topical discussion of such ideas. The hierarchy goes both ways. Nikki Haley renamed her husband and couldn't go without the D when she was overseas, serving overseas. She's the alpha in that relationship, and I'm sure there's resentment. Okay. I'm not sure what you're trying to say here. What does that have to do with hierarchy? Like, I'm not saying every hierarchy is a good hierarchy, but having hierarchy is better than not having any hierarchy at all. That's all I meant. So the Soul said destroying the patriarchy meant destroying marriage. Then what does religion really have to do with it? I don't know. Just my initial thoughts without further thinking. Fair enough. No, I know you're not, but we're talking about hierarchical systems. So what does that have to do with hierarchical systems? A hierarchy can be good or a hierarchy can be bad. Okay, well, I don't really know what's going on with that. So
Destructive. It was to tear down the patriarchy, and that meant destroying marriage.
Politically, you're just dealing with plain and simple Marxism versus capitalism, right? At the end of the day, you depend on the state.
Yep.
In order to depend on the state, you've got to break down the family. In order to break down the family, you've got to break down marriage. In order to break down marriage, you've got to break down the relationship between women and men.
And it doesn't stop there, guys. This is just about dating and stuff. Let's not forget all the stuff with indoctrinating children. And I mean, the propaganda for everybody, but specifically indoctrinating children.
And they said, we will achieve this by, quote, promoting promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, and homosexuality, end quote. And you've got to ask yourself, how has that worked out for women? Because
Well, you can ask Riley Gaines or Taylor Hanson, is it? And you might get one answer, but Leah Thomas is definitely going to give you a different one. We're still talking about
if you promote prostitution and eroticism, which means pornography, you've really established a new slave trade in vulnerable women to serve a male market.
No, but it's freeing. I'm free, independent woman. Okay.
And if you promote promiscuity, which goes with the abortion culture, it's women who bear the price of that, not men. It's women.
Well, I gotta stop you there because yes, physiologically, women bear the price of that. But don't for a second tell me that a man is not bearing the price of losing his child because a woman decides she wants an abortion. We ain't playing that game. We ain't playing that game. When a child dies, both the man and the woman have lost the child. So the Soul said, would husband and wife be defined as master and servant in any way without adding ideas of modern hierarchy or patriarchy thoughts? Can we even say that our given knowledge on the subject, given our modern... I got to be honest with you guys. I have no idea what we're talking about. Imagine a modern relationship as a vehicle where one person can be at the wheel. Now imagine a relationship where a community is at the wheel and neither the man and woman have that responsibility. Okay, so clearly it's having one person at the wheel. And in terms of hierarchy, we would, it doesn't, but in terms of hierarchy, then the person who is at the wheel is higher in that hierarchy. When there's a community at the wheel, then there is no hierarchy. You made the claim that yeah, so you just said that the hierarchical systems can cause much resentment. They can, or they can organize society in a fantastic way. That hierarchy of one person behind the wheel is the ideal situation. Even though you might be resentful that you don't get to control the car, you'll be happy that you get there alive. So unless I'm completely missing your point, I don't know what we're talking about. So the Soul said men should be given the choice when to abort. I say that as a woman. It is not a choice just for women. Dilly to that. Of course, there is a greater, there's a greater involvement from the woman, clearly. But the level of involvement of having a child, the physical aspect of that is just not relevant. It's just not relevant. The fact that you grew the child in your body and birthed them is beautiful and amazing. And I absolutely acknowledge men cannot do that. That is one of the most beautiful things that women can do. However, that in no way reduces the value of a child in the eyes of their father. Comlex said, I'd argue that destroying the patriarchy had more to do with destroying motherhood more than marriage. I think you're right about that. That might be a comment of the night. Facts, bro. Facts. So as far as feminism has come, I completely agree with the surface level of your statement. Yep. Love it. Love it.
It's women who bear the price of that, not men. It's women who have a place of death created in their body where there should be a place of life. And that...
Okay, fine. That part, yes. That part, yes. But every other aspect about having a child is equally shared.
Messes with their minds and their hearts.
Yeah, it doesn't mess with your mind. As a man, it doesn't mess with your mind at all to have a child with a woman that you want to be birthed. And she goes and said, nah, but she said, oh, hell and just gets the abortion. And of course, interesting how they're moving from there to abusive boyfriend attempts to force a woman. Can I get no? Yeah, I'm gonna run with it. We'll do this here, and it's interesting because what about the videos? Actually, I'm gonna try and find that. I'll play this and I'll try and find what I'm talking about.
Don't grab me. We're not together, bro. I want this kid by you. No, I can't. Let's go. We got kid. Let's go. I don't want this kid by you.
This idea that men and women are equal really means that they're the same, that they're interchangeable.
Nah.
That it doesn't mean anything to be man or woman, when of course it means everything. So yeah, it's about.
Wait, I think I got it. Yeah. Okay. Boom. boom, boom. So we see this. Not cool,
This
right?
idea that-
Not cool, not cool. But also,
Men and women are.
Listen.
No, don't do it.
yeah, men don't have to bear the brunt of this.
Oh my gosh. They don't. It's not right. It isn't right. I'm such a good dad. I know, honey. I took care of her kids too, and the guy that she's let back in her life doesn't even take care of his own kids.
Bro, I never seen this part of the video. I just seen the other part. Let's finish this up.
No matter what happens, Tyler, you've done the right thing, man.
Amen. Amen. God damn. So homeboy took in this fucking whore after she had kids from another man, took care of those kids, took care of her. And then finally, after them being, you're not my dad. Finally, he impregnates her with his own child, his own flesh and blood. And what do we get?
Help her to listen.
Don't let her
Help her to listen.
No, don't do it.
Oh my gosh.
I have zero opinions on the whether the size of a man's family.
They don't. It's not right. It isn't right.
I'm such a good dad.
I know, honey.
I took care of her kids too, and the guy that she's let back in her life doesn't even take care of his own kids. No matter what happens, Tyler, you've done the right thing, man.
That's crazy. Insane. And Leslie, shout out to Alessi here with, unfortunately, we went from fertility gods to abortion gods. Sad. Deep and brutal. Indeed. So just an odd thing that I noticed, that you went one way when you clearly could have made the exact same point in a different way than all of the liberal media. Just saying. I mean, you know, I appreciate Tenet Media. I definitely appreciate Lauren Southern. Don't like that part. Context said, God damn, both of those hit hard as fuck. I have no respect for the first guy and unbelievable respect for the second. I know people got problems, but life is precious to me. And that's what it is. That's what it is. It is a life, whether you like it or not. It is what it is.
This idea that men and women are equal really means that they're the same, that they're interchangeable, that it doesn't mean anything to be man or woman, when of course it means everything. So yeah, it's about breaking down the family and making people dependent on the state.
Yep.
And of course that's a bigger issue that I don't think when you're talking about young people in love that they really care too much about that, or they're not going to associate it really with what's going on.
Yeah, Bonzig said that's pretty much my position. That wait, I was also similar to Amateur pro-choice, but yeah. So I believe that the government should not be making these decisions. I feel like the fact that we have these laws has created a social idea that because the government said it's legal, it's good. And it's a because it's illegal. Wait, does that make sense? Or because it's illegal, it's bad, and it's according to the Republicans. But we don't like that, and so now it's just a law. Now it's not about the killing. Now it's not about the actual process. Now it's just about the feminist win. Instead of trying to improve society, they're just trying to get a win.
That they really care too much about that, or they're not going to associate it really with what's going on.
George Orwell said of the communist revolution, he said, there is something fundamentally wrong with a system that needs to be built on a mountain of corpses, end quote. The thing is that the sexual revolution is built on a much bigger mountain of tiny corpses. The abortion on demand is the essential guarantee of the sexual revolution.
Yep.
It's the essential guarantee of that ancient fantasy of the predatory male, that he can have sex without consequence. And the strange thing is that this is claimed to be a victory for feminism.
Yep. Think about that. And I want to make sure.
And that he can have sex.
Yeah. So the idea that a man that would just go around and have sex with everybody was a bad man. That's completely reversed. And like the notion that there should be value in being able to have sex with many women is different than having sex with many women. The value, the honor, the whatever it comes from the ability to do something, not at least in this context, not the fact that you've done it. And yeah, I don't like that at all. Woodrow said, notice how many on the left will celebrate how many abortions they've had. Yeah, it's just I don't know how you get past that. I don't know how you get past that. Once again, I have a friend who wanted his girlfriend to abort his second kid from another mother. She didn't go through with it and still hasn't met his daughter to this day. I love him, but it's so hard to respect him. So he wanted his girlfriend to abort his second kid. His girlfriend to abort his what? His girlfriend to abort the second kid from another mother? How? What? You mean another father? And then she didn't go through with it, and he's just like not about it. Is that what we're saying? Thank you, sir. So the soul said, even if it made my own life hardest as far as tax breaks, I stand by that. Government incentives should not be a thing for family structures. Family should be a thing outside of the government. Bingo. This is why I am not going to use tax benefits as a reason to get married to the woman that I will be spending my life with.
Ancient fantasy of the predatory male, that he can have sex without consequence.
Yeah, that used to be a bad thing, and now it's celebrated. So his girlfriend was having his second kid. His wife had his first. He wanted the girlfriend to abort. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that's fucked up. And so now he just dipped out on the girl because she had the kid. Sad. I mean, I get that's your boy, but like, have you talked to him like about it directly? I'm curious how that conversation would go. Because I don't know if I would be able to be like, you just live your life. Like that's a big thing. That's a big thing. Guys, we are coming up on the end of regular time. You guys, if you want to keep the party raging,
the strange thing is that this is claimed to be a victory for feminism. Once again, the revolution eats itself by liberating the worst impulses of feral men.
I would say that feminism has allowed men to play out their selfish desires in the sense that if guys don't want to commit to you and they don't want to have a relationship with you and they don't want to be serious with you, they can just have sex with you and never talk to you again.
And now that's the standard. Me, who does want to have a serious relationship with you, who definitely wants to have sex with, but a lot more as well. Now it is reasonable for you to treat me as one of those other guys because the standard has been set. That's just the way it works.
If that is something that they are interested in doing, that is completely justified because women and men can have sex in the same frequency now and it's perfectly fine. Which again, if that's how people want to operate, that's completely their prerogative. I'm not gonna say anything mean or nasty to them for doing that. But yeah, no, for sure. It's made it easier for people not to commit, basically, which I think is really beneficial to men specifically, because obviously if they can have sex with a bunch of women, I think they'll do it. And if that's on the table and there's no ramifications when they do that, then they're probably going to continue on doing that.
Yup. I don't really believe in marriage because you don't need a piece of paper to tell you that you are in love and that you're committed. I'm a man of my word. So if I say I'm going to love you forever, I'll probably love you for a few years and then change my mind.
Weirdly enough, I'm more comfortable with the title of mother than I am of wife. But that's, again, a personal thing.
That sounds like you need therapy.
I think long-lasting love and creating a family is one of the most beautiful things that we can experience in our lives. But I can't really imagine that right now because I haven't met the right person. You know, I'm in my 30s now, and what I thought was going to happen in my 20s didn't. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I would much rather meet someone later and it be this amazing connection and be the right person, and ideally we don't divorce.
The biological
Biological clock.
can sound like a nasty word, but that doesn't make it any less real. Peak fertility for women is around their early to mid-20s. By age 30, one's fertility begins to rapidly decline. By age 45, your chances of getting pregnant are less than 4% per cycle. Just 30 years ago, the vast majority of women were giving birth in their early to mid-20s. The number of women now giving birth to their first child after 30 has risen by nearly 50%.
Damn.
And with it, infertility and challenges, with record numbers of women having to use the expensive and strenuous process of IVF to get pregnant when their bodies will no longer do so naturally.
That I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine having to go through. I obviously I'm a man. I am not married. I don't have kids. So this is all just my understanding of this, that, and the other. But I feel like IVF would be the worst possible thing. Like I was telling you guys, I was just watching Love Is Blind, right? And you know, there's the they're if you're not familiar with the show, they're in two pods and there's a wall between them and they're talking, but they can't see each other. So you're supposed to fall in love. Love is blind. And they get engaged in the pods, and then they go and they have to, you know, they go on a honeymoon and they have to do normal stuff, and then and so on and so forth. And at the end of 4 weeks, they see if they want to stay married. And I would just be horrified to go on the show and be like, okay, I'm going to do this experiment. I'm going to put myself out there, knowing that I'm a short guy and this is going to be a surprise when they open the doors. And then either I propose to somebody behind the wall and then she sees me and she's like, you're too short. No. Or, you know, like we try to have it work, and like that is a level of loss that I haven't experienced in a long time, but you know, we've all had that kind of loss. To then map that onto the experience and the time frame of having a child has got to, I mean, obviously stress is not good for a fetus, but how could you not be stressed out, wondering if this is going to work? Insane. Let's shout out Guam Tech. Shout out. Keeping the party raging. There you go. That's right. Every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you so much, sir. Let's keep the party raging. Thank you, brother.
Of IVF to get pregnant when their bodies will no longer do so naturally.
I'm calling with your results, and unfortunately the test is negative. Very sorry. Wish I could give you different information.
Wow. I mean, again, my level of understanding is I genuinely love you and you don't love me back. That's the extent of how I can map this in my brain. That's the worst emotional pain I've ever had, and it cannot be anything close to what I mean, listen to this.
Unfortunately, I'm calling with your results, and unfortunately the test is negative. Very sorry.
And look at homeboy, like he's receiving the same news. And he has to be the strong one. And in that moment, This is what being a man is about. Damn. Fucking heavy. So the soul said, I am woman, mother, wife, gardener, caregiver, and caretaker, healer, researcher. I don't know why it would be so hard to combine them all into woman. We divide too much these days. Definitely agree with that. As does Guam Tech. She's gonna say, I will say, I have not had to go through any type of treatments. I had 2 boys. The second one nearly killed me, though. That is a conversation for the after party. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it just, I mean, no words. To love someone and they don't love you back. Yeah, and humans are made for love, whether or not we can clearly define what that is. I agree. And again, I think, just not being loved back is a thing. Like you understand that when you start to talk to somebody, you realize, okay, there's a possibility here that this isn't going, or you think of it in the context of probably this is not going to work out, but let me just try anyway. When you're going through IVF, it's so different. I imagine. Crazy. Context of my wife is Wonder Woman to me after she gave a home birth with no meds. She champed that shit, and I'll forever hold her above 90% of the women women today. She is my everyday superhero. Dilly to Mrs. Guamtech. Dilly. All right.
And I feel like I should have started sooner. I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have blah, blah, blah. Like, right?
Yes. Correct. Yes. And it is very sad that you're in this situation. But notice there's a Starbucks, this, that, da. And I don't want to be the boomers like, well, maybe if you didn't buy coffee. But that sentiment is real. The extended, the arrested development of millennials, my generation, where you're a kid until you're 40 years old, is creating this.
You just go through all the scenarios. I feel like I've wasted my time and I've wasted my money.
Until you're married and you have friends that are married trying to have kids, you do not realize how challenging of a process IVF is, how expensive it is. And I feel like so many women have been given the short end of the stick by being lied to by these magazines and media that just, put your career first. And that's fine if a woman wants a career, but you put it first and then you really wanted kids.
But we didn't know.
Exactly. As she just said, you didn't know. You didn't know that there was a trade-off. But the fact is, you should have. And I don't say that in a blaming way on these women specifically. I put it on the women who were pushing a feminist ideology, a feminist message that yes, you go and be a boss queen and whatever, without the other information that, well, once you hit the wall, things might change. There was no conversation of that. So where are the women? Where are the Gen X feminists? Oh, they're still just single and feminists. Okay. I answer my own question. Because I was going to go, where are all the Gen X feminists who grew up and realized, oh, this ain't it. And we got to change things. And then I realized they're still out there doing the same thing as 20-year-olds or trying. And it's only just right now. That they're realizing feminism wasn't what we thought it was. Wasn't what it sold it to us to be. Golden Section, no hate on anyone who didn't take that route. My wife was just crazy enough to want to connect with her ancestors and do it without hospital interference. She convinced me to be crazy along with her. I bet you saved a shit ton of money though, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, insurance and whatever, but did you not save a shit ton of money? Like, I got in an accident one time. I didn't even get in the ambulance or ask for it. And they charged me $500 for that shit. So I said to go on tech, that is what I wanted to do with our youngest. Circumstances took that away from me, but I wouldn't dare judge another woman for wanting to connect that way. That is absolutely amazing. Amazing.
No, we didn't know. I mean, all the mothers who said to their daughters, you know, it's fine, you have your career. I mean, that came from a lot of mums too, who felt they missed. I mean, my mother is classic, who never achieved what she wanted to because she was a mum and because she followed my father out they came from Germany. And, you know, he ended up, he was a famous economist and he had a illustrious career, and my mother's career was really compromised as a result of that. I mean, there was a whole generation of women like that who said to their daughters, you know, get educated, they didn't know that the fertility problem was going to be as bad as it turned out to be. But we know now. So why aren't we talking more about that?
I agree. And I mean, you know, that's what you're here to do, talk more about it. But that realization that it's like, oh, there are no, like you have the like when you think about like a typical gangster, you have the OG who got out and is trying to you know, instill in the young bucks that, you know, this ain't the way, you don't want to do this, da, 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 da. And again, the question being, where are the feminists? And feminism is so toxic that there are none. There are no reformed feminists that have any, and I mean, of course there are. But I think the fact that you see, like, this is one girl. There's this one girl. I went to college with her, and she was tall. So didn't, you know, I was just the guy who lived. She was a sorority girl. Some of you guys know I lived in a frat house. I wasn't in the frat, but it was an unofficial frat house. So I lived in the master bedroom because I'm a baller. But you know, she didn't see me that way. But you know, I got that riz, as they say. So over the years, I kind of got a little bit closer with her. But then we graduated, and she married real quick. She got into one of these military marriages, and then dude was off wherever. And then she was talking to me, and you know, not to put anybody's shit out there, but it was very clear that she was not the hardcore feminist that she purported to be in college. As soon as she could be the girl who had a man that she felt protected, she slid right into that role. It's just natural. It's like when, you know, I have a new dog training client, and it's like, oh, this dog is just different. I'm like, probably not. Dogs are pretty fucking simple. You show them the rules. You show them that they're better off listening to your rules than just trying to do it, and they'll be like, oh, bet. That's an oversimplification, but that's literally my job. I don't remember what we were talking about. So I was saying, you must have saved money. He's like, no, we paid $5,000 out of our own pocket, and insurance wouldn't cover it. We chose to pay for our crazy ideas, and it was worth every penny. Okay, but how much would you have paid with a typical hospital birth? Like, what does that cost? And I mean, I know there's insurance premiums, but do they just cover everything? You just pay like whatever, $200, $500. So the soul said, I gave birth to 2 boys, one naturally without drugs in a hospital still. I was 29, so very ignorant. And one 28 had learned a lot. But as I said, circumstances. That's why I won't negate science. Yep. Woodrow said, calling feminism toxic is the understatement of human existence. Yeah, well, and that's what I don't know. So like, what is the 20, not 29. There we go. Okay. I was like, wait, why were you talking about them backwards? Got it. So 20 and 28. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, what kind of payment does what kind of cost is it to have a child? Like, I've just never been there.
To be, but we know now. So why aren't we talking more about that?
I do think in a way we have been lied to. But I mean, I think that women want to have the best of both worlds, and I don't see anything wrong with
Yup.
that.
Women want to have the best of both worlds. Now, we all want the best of both worlds, but we have the understanding that it is simply a desire and not a practical reality.
What I think is problematic is that we're just not told that, yeah, sometimes you do get to a point where you have sort of run out of time.
Sadly, difficulties with natural conception is not the only downside of giving birth later. The chances of life-threatening ectopic pregnancies can be up to 8 times higher in women over 35.
I really hope, specifically Destiny, but just people on the left, watch this. I would love to hear what issues they have, because it's Tenet Media, it's Lauren Southern, it's talking about how feminism is bad. But like, what exactly could you possibly say about this that is wrong?
It's the women who have babies. It's the women who get pregnant, not the men. So they have a certain amount of time in which to get their life in order.
Bingo!
That men don't, and that's just the way it is. We're never going to be able to change that.
It is what it is.
So the smart idea is to work within what you've got. And nobody wants to say that to women, because the idea is that they're supposed to be living parallel lives throughout their life as similar to men's. And that's why they end up in a pickle when they hit about the age of 30 and realize, well, this isn't working so well.
A perception, particularly in the manosphere, that men can just go ahead and
there it is, the manosphere,
date much younger women, and that's kind of going to solve the problem. What I would say to that, to those individuals, is good luck.
And despite popular belief, men also experience reduced fertility with age, with sperm quality drastically decreasing after 40. Children with fathers aged 40 or over are 5 times more likely to develop autism spectrum disorder than children to fathers under 30.
Wow, really? That's very interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense.
The myth of eternal
So the Soul says, I still think the ideas have much in common as far as rights, and the movement itself takes over because it doesn't want to be irrelevant. So they continue into toxic realms. Yep. So Quantex said our insurance would have paid for most, not all, of a hospital birth. I actually feel horrible for trying to talk the wife out of it to save money. It was so much more intimate than the hospital. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Male fertility is just that, a myth. Some men believe they can escape the consequences of the passage of time by easily and simply finding women much younger than them to bear their children. Most of them are sorely mistaken.
We see that women express very strong preferences for men who are close to their own age, within a window of 2 to 4 years. That's kind of the ideal. So it's not the case,
Really?
particularly very young women, that are going to be wanting to date men in their...
Yeah.
Escape the key is then children to 5 decreasing after 40. Children with fathers aged 40 or over are 5 times more likely to develop autism spectrum disorder than children to fathers under 30.
So under 30 and over 40, five times?
Develop
5 times more likely to develop autism. I did not have any idea that was a thing. And, I'm not going to fact check it because that's not what I do, right, mid show. But it's definitely something that, I need to look into, that I've just never heard of that before.
Autism spectrum disorder than children to fathers under 30. The myth of eternal male fertility is just that, a myth. Some men believe they can escape the consequences of the passage of time by easily and simply finding women much younger than them to bear their children. Most of them are sorely mistaken.
We see that women express very strong preferences for men who are close to their own age, within a window of 2 to 4 years. That's kind of the ideal. So it's not the case, particularly very young women, that are going to be wanting to date men in their mid to late 30s. In that sense, there's some of that discourse that, that's when male value is at its peak. It's really not. And
I can't wait till we get our first comment. Like, what is, like, especially if it's on a clip, when somebody's like, why is everybody commenting text yellow goal? What is text yellow goal?
Particularly, people show a strong, or I should say women especially, show a very strong preference for men kind of close to their own age.
The idea.
Hey, a younger man. Soy yo. All right. She said, I'm 41 and my husband's almost 36. Our youngest is 13, so it has no bearing as far as this comment, I guess. You know, and of course, obviously, you know, many different things can cause that, but interesting. But I still would imagine that, you know, if he, yeah, no, that's too long gone. Interesting. I never even heard that.
Idea that any of us, male or female, can just wait forever to have children is only a recent.
It's StreamYard. You're talking about the thing? It's StreamYard. Yeah, right. And that's why I said I wanted you guys to pick one that would show up, but you know, whatever catches on, right?
An extremely flawed notion, and not just in its blindness to biology.
We don't only have to have two. We don't only have to have good and bad. I mean, you know, start using them and let them take on their own meanings. Just spam something random when you hear something, and then whatever the interpretation is, then it'll live.
Of us, male or female, can just wait forever to have children is only a recent and extremely flawed notion, and not just in its blindness to biology. Age is a factor if you want to be a parent that can run around with your child kicking a soccer ball when they reach their teens.
Yeah, whenever whenever I talk about something like that, I always think of Theo Vaughn, and his dad was like 70 when he was born, and I don't know, like I just the morality of that, the morality of knowing that at best, you might see 15 years of your kid's life. And I mean, you know, early, you know, somebody who was born in the early, 1900s, I guess that's not really the way that they thought about kids, but definitely is the way I think about it.
Age matters if we consider the burden we may be to our children during their prime years as we begin to hit our last. Age matters when we consider whether we want to meet and care for our grandchildren one day.
That is such a fucking a real deep fear that I have, that I will not be able to give my parents grandchildren before they pass. You know, like they're what? My mom was born in 52. My mom was born in 56. My dad was born in 52. So they're up there. They're not like, you know, decrepit, but they're up there. And I'm me here, broke, short. You know, I'm pretty confident that, you know, just throughout the course of life, I'll meet somebody, but we never know how much time we have. And I think more than anything, I like, my dad's helped me out so much, especially in the last decade. Like, you know, he's always been there. He was, you know, a doctor, so he provided an amazing childhood from that aspect. But he's been so successful that I've never been in the position to be like, "Hey, Dad, I'm doing this thing," and like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, if you're the first to go to college in your family, like, that's a big deal. Like, bro, my dad has a doctorate and from another country and came here and did all that other shit. And so, like, just whether it's children or work or something, I just want to be able what is a man? What is a man if you can't show something to your dad and have him be proud of you? I don't know. So the soul said age is definitely a factor. Giving birth to my youngest at 28. Yeah, that was borderline too old from a woman's perspective. Yep, indeed. As much as I love my oldest son, almost 21 now, engaged to an 18-year-old, they were both minors. They both say they don't want kids. breaks my heart, and I want their birth control to fail. I would give that. I would give that time. Like Zoomers, like that's how they think. Let that give it 5, even 10 years. Give it 10 years. There's no way that, like, I mean, some people just don't want kids, but statistically, within the next 10 years, like, she's 18, obviously she doesn't want kids. But when she's 28, she will. Yeah, definitely.
When we consider whether we want to meet and care for our grandchildren one day. This path of frivolous pleasure seeking has resulted in deep
frivolous pleasure seeking. Absolutely.
Pain for many. So where do we go next? Well, some have suggested we go back to a time before the revolution. Tradition is often portrayed as old, dated practices, a certain shirt you have to wear on Sunday, or the reciting of a sacred text. But this is simply a superficial side to it. In reality, tradition is built up of knowledge from our ancestors through the ages.
And God or not?
What they did wrong, what they did right.
Oh, so you don't need God to have ancient traditions that really are good for society. Okay, just making sure.
Right. All of them have passed down little bits of advice after
from God?
Their long and complicated lives.
Okay, I'm done.
We only have so much time to make mistakes, just one life. And so we compile a guidebook for those who come next.
I think the old rules made it easier for men and women to be kind to each other. I mean, because when I was a teenager, there was still very strict rules about how far you let the boy go, and most women complied with that. That was just before everything started to totally disintegrate, I suppose. And men knew how nice girls behaved. I mean, there were very strict ideas about appropriate behavior. Now no one knows, and I think it's become enormously much more difficult to protect ourselves and to protect each other.
A little bit. Well, you caught it. You good.
Behave kindly towards each other.
Well, tradition is something that's been proven over time. It matches our human nature. And I love thinking of the really old word for marriage, which was matrimony. So matrimony was a word that
the married state of the relation of husband and wife, wedlock, the sacrament of marriage. From Old French, matrimony
comes from two Latin words, mater meaning mother, and monium meaning state or condition. So the word tells us that this institution of matrimony or marriage is built around the condition or possibility of motherhood. It's all about the mother and child phenomenon in nature and reinforcing that in a family. And against that tradition, I'd say that people who seek cheap imitations, well, no wonder it leaves them empty.
Yeah. And I there's a little bit left, but I think we get the point here that this is something that is ongoing, and that we see some of the problems, but we also overcorrect for some of the other ones, and that's not going to be good for anybody. And I don't know how else to think about this except in the context that I think about everything else, that we need to be able to come to the table and talk to each other about the opinions that we disagree upon. And the only way to do that is be in good faith. Make sure that when we come to the table that we are using words as they are meant to be used, and we are not holding any beliefs that cannot be questioned. That's it. I think there's so much. We can have such better lives. We can have such better lives. Don't lie to me, Glantech. It's on the fucking screen, bro. There you go. What did he say there? Oh, did I miss that? Yeah, they're 100 times better off than we are, in the perfect place to have children, and just write it off. Actually gets under my skin a lot. Not gonna lie. Yeah, and I mean, the problem is that we want to control so much that we can't control, and we don't want to focus on the things that we can control. What can you control? Who do you seek? Who do you let into your life? Who do you, those kinds of things you can control. Can you control the fact that you want an amazing, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Luxurious life, that you need all this money? You can't control that unless you want to work hard, but then, work hard your whole life, but then, you're not focusing on the. So you have to be able to understand, what is it that is important? What is it that I want to spend my time, my money, my energy on, and everything else comes secondary. And if you can't do that, then you're going to end up exactly like who I was asking about. The old feminists who are getting 50 and 60 years old and still have not yet realized that their ideology is creating the hell that they live in. There's only one way around it, guys. There's only one way around it, and that is truth and discussion. Truth and discussion. So let's shout out our, so we had the comment of the night from Guam Tech. I'd argue destroying the patriarchy had more to do with destroying motherhood than destroying marriage. Just a thought. And of course, we had the $5 super chat from our boy. Thank you, sir. Of course, we had our boy Garrett with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 gifted memberships. Again, if you have not already, if you got a membership and you didn't hit me up on Discord, make sure you do it, because you're leaving free shit on the table. And of course, our sponsor of the stream, Soil 2. So thank you so much. You guys, I very, 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 very much appreciate you guys. Actually, that was 5. So we got co-sponsors, Soil and Garrett. Co-sponsors. My apologies. But thank you guys so much. You guys know how much it means to me when you just show up. And it means a lot more to me when you are engaged with the conversation. It means even that much more to me. And you're like, hey, I could get this for free. I could sit here and nobody would ever complain. But I'm going to choose to take my hard-earned money and support what's going on here. Because without that, it disappears. I can keep this going for a while. But I just, some of you know that yes, definitely Garrett is a co-sponsor. I can keep this going for a while. But I had to take on more work from my job because, motherfucker got to eat. And that's cool. We all got to do what we got to do. But it's in your hands. I'm doing my part. If you think that this is something that deserves to exist, unfortunately, that does come down to money. But it's not just money. If you don't have money, that is totally fine. You could just be here. You can watch the videos. You can like the videos. You can share the videos. You can comment on the videos. All of that stuff is necessary. And you guys are the only ones who can do it. So thank you so much for being here. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here already in the after party with Guam Tech and Woodrow. I will see you guys there. Peace.